I hereby call to order the Roseville City Council meeting for Monday, August 10th, 2026. Mr. City Manager, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Groff.
Here.
Councilmember Bauer.
Here.
Councilmember Strawn.
Here.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Here.
Mayor Rowe.
Here. And with us at the dais, by way of introduction, we have our City Attorney Rachel Tierney, who's on my right at the end, and City Manager Pat Trudgeon, who's on my left at the other end of the dais. We have various staff and guests who will be participating in the meeting, and we'll make those introductions as those agenda items come up. Want to make sure folks are aware, members of the public, that there is a copy of the agenda available for any members of the public who may want to have one in the chambers here. That is on the back table for your use. We also do have one copy of all the meeting materials in a three-ring binder for the public to share. All of those things, as I mentioned, are in the back of the chambers by the door under the big clock. Would remind folks, if you have a cell phone, to be sure to either silence it or otherwise make sure it doesn't disrupt the meeting this evening. And with that, we'll ask folks to stand, if you're able, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next on our agenda this evening is approval of tonight's agenda, and I'll check, as always, to begin with Mr. Trudgeon to see if there are any changes from a staff perspective this evening.
Mr. Mayor, we do not have any changes to tonight's agenda.
All right. Are there any changes that council members wish to make to the agenda this evening, or items that council members would like removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration? That does not appear to be the case. I'll check with members of the public to see if anybody's here on an item in section 10 of our agenda. This is known as our consent agenda. It's on the bottom of page 1 of the agenda, carries over onto page 2. This is towards the end of our meeting. It's usually fairly administrative items, but if you happen to be here for one of those items and wish to speak to it or ask a question, we can move it forward in the meeting and give you an opportunity to do that earlier rather than waiting to the end. Is there anyone here for an item in section 10 of tonight's agenda? Right, does not appear to be the case. With that, then it looks like we can entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Groff, seconded by Councilmember Strawn. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously, and our agenda is approved for this evening. Next on the agenda, we have our first opportunity for public comment. We will provide opportunities for members of the public to speak on agenda items as they come up over the course of the meeting, but we always do start each meeting with an opportunity for general public comment on items that relate to city business or may be of interest to people in the community, but aren't on our evening's agenda for tonight's meeting. And with that, I see we've got our first speaker, and I won't go through all the time and rules restrictions because our first speaker is well versed in all of those rules.
Hey, Roger Hess, Whitener Place. Just a couple of questions about on-sale liquor licenses. To meet the 50 or 25% thing about their sales have to be greater than the alcohol sales, does it only food has to be greater, or all their non-alcohol revenue have to be greater than the alcohol? And then my other question is just wondering if any on-sale license holders currently are out of bounds on that, if anyone's in violation of that. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. And I believe we might be able to answer that this evening. I believe we had a discussion about that when we updated our regulations most recently because we had an applicant who was not necessarily primarily food. And as I recall, it is all sales, not just food, that is counted. And so it's got to be a certain percentage of all sales.
Yeah, non-alcohol sales.
Right.
So that could be food, that could be entertainment. I think we talked about it when we talked about the
Is it par 365?
Par 365.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
And we are not aware of anybody out of compliance at this point.
And as far as policing that, is that something we do through the renewal process? Is it something I can't imagine that we send out police department to do compliance checks on that sort of thing, so just curious.
No,
out of
we do
curiosity.
not. We check on an as-needed basis. Typically, it's fairly obvious what they do, but we do some spot checks.
Is there any reporting that's required of those?
There's nothing to us that we require on a regular basis. They annually certify, but we do try to stay on top of that, so.
All right, so they do certify to the city
No,
annually?
I'm sorry. No, they do. No, we do not do any certification. that we
okay.
do, But when things come in, we do a check and have a conversation with them about making sure that they meet this. As I said, we have a lot of long-standing places that have liquor licenses that are very clearly have more than that, but we do want to do a spot check every once in a while to make sure that the receipts are actually coming in
All right,
appropriately.
all right. Thanks for answering that on the spot. With that, is there anyone else from the general public who wishes to speak under general public comment this evening? All right, does not appear to be the case. Then we will move then to recognitions and donations. We have one proclamation this evening. It's a proclamation related to Karen Martyrs Day. And I will read the proclamation, and then a motion to approve would be in order. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the City of Roseville is committed to recognizing and honoring the contributions of all members of our community, and whereas the Karen are indigenous people of the Southeast Asian countries of Thailand and Burma, which is now known as Myanmar, the Karen aided the British during World War II, and many Karen were killed in the effort. And whereas on August 12, 1950, Karen national leader Su Ba U Gi, the founder and president of the Karen National Union, or KNU, was assassinated with 8 of his colleagues in the Karen state by the Burmese army. And whereas ever since then, August 12th is recognized as National Karen Martyrs Day, and whereas on Martyrs Day, Karen people all over the world commemorate and honor fallen leaders, soldiers, and civilians who have lost their lives in the struggle for freedom, democracy, and human rights. And whereas there are more than 20,000 Karen refugees who now call Minnesota home, making it the largest Karen community in the United States, and whereas a growing number of Karen refugees make their home in Roseville and neighboring cities, now, therefore, be resolved, the City of Roseville declares August 12th, 2026, to be Karen Martyrs Day in the city.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Strawn, seconded by Councilmember Groff to approve that proclamation. Any discussion on the motion?
I know we also have the Karen organization within Roseville, or we have had them working with us in the past, so it's nice to be able to continue to honor their leaders and the work and their contribution to our community.
All right. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. That passes unanimously. That proclamation is approved. All right, that then brings us to our business items this evening. And our first business item is we're asked to accept a donation from the Friends of the Roseville Oval Foundation and approve the improvements that this donation would help support. And with us this evening, we have Matt Johnson and Kevin Elm to talk about this donation and what it's all about. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Johnson, Mr. Elm.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. We have a couple of agenda items, I think, bookending our business sections related to the John Rose Minnesota Oval tonight. The first one is one of those fun ones. I get to come and talk about an exciting project that we're getting, to quote John Lennon, a little help from our friends. Yeah, I'm not above that. And that is our improvements to the Oval Lobby. And with me today is Skating Center Superintendent Kevin Elm. And I asked Kevin to come along and really talk about the why of this project, as well as to talk a little bit about what's in the project, because it's really been his brainchild and his baby going back a couple of years. So, Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Mayor, council members. I appreciate being able to be here to give a little bit of a perspective on what we're doing here. And I've been an employee for the city for 33 plus years now, so I've had a very unique perspective on the Oval Lobby and the skating center itself. So I've been able to kind of see it evolve over the years, which has been a great thing for me to be able to envision what we can do to help the space as it's evolved. It gets a lot of use during the winter, and over the years, the use of the facility and the space has grown. If any of you have been there, you know what it can be like on a busy evening. It's an organized chaos, and I think we're at a point where we need to update it and make it so it's a better user experience for everybody. We've done many things over the years to improve the space and keep it up to date. More recently, we've done remodeled redone our bathrooms in there and put new flooring in. We've painted the walls and cleaned it up the best we can, but we're at a point now where I think it's time to do some other things. Few of those items that we're looking at doing are, if you can see there were some old aluminum benches that are original to the facility. They're kind of loud, they're dented, they're outdated, and I think what would be best for that is we found some new recycled plastic benches that will go in. They're modular, they're 6 feet in length, and with those they won't have backs on them, so it'll be where you can sit back to back, and it'll give more space for our users to sit in, opening up space underneath to put their bags and everything, just to sort of help the flow. We've also done, the other thing we're looking at doing is something aesthetically is, it's sort of we've sort of got an ad hoc displays that are on the walls right now. They're all just sort of hodgepodge and been put up over the years, and we want to condense that into a more modern look with the user groups, and they're fully on board with that. We've also have a plan to take out what used to be our old skate rental office area. There's a wall there. We want to knock that wall out to open up that space to be more of part of the lobby itself. We'll add benches. We think we can add about 25 seatings in there, which will be very helpful. Move our skate rental area to another part down on the north end there by the employee room, converting that space into the skate rental area. We've been working on that through the summer in-house, and it's turning out great. Again, that's going to help with just the flow of everything in the space down there. Also with that, we have the outside where we look at the Oval lobby as kind of the front door to the Oval. So when you walk out between the rink and the Oval lobby, we've got old rubber that's it's an old flooring that's 25, 30 years old, and it's become warped. There's holes in it. It's really unsafe at this point. So we've got a plan there to replace that all through down the stairs and everything. And also the railings, the structural railings that you see outside that the last time we had those painted was about 15 years ago, and they're nicked. Aesthetically, it's not pleasing to the eye. The color's outdated. So we definitely want to, with this money, we'll be able to help do those things as well. All of the improvements that we're looking at doing there, I think as a whole, will create a nice visual and comfortable experience when the users come back this November and see that we're doing stuff to update and make it a more user-friendly experience. So the functionality of the space is key right now for our users, especially with the growing impact that we're having on our community, the communities around us, people from all over that are coming in. We're having other cities using the space as well, and the Oval, especially for youth hockey. A lot of the teams now are starting to put little scrimmages together rather than just the one team. They're bringing another team from other cities to come play, and so it's doubling the amount of people at the time too. So I think it's really important what we're looking at doing. And with that, I really want to thank the Friends of the Oval Foundation. It's a great investment to the city. It's an opportunity to take the space that served this community for many years and really move forward with it. So we're always appreciative of their support, and I'm really excited to continue moving forward with it and make it a space that the community can be proud of. One more thing we want to do is there's a recognition plaque that we want to put up that would be front facing for the Friends of the Oval Foundation. They'll have influential members on there as well. Will be the speed skating community. They can add influential members to their community, and as well as the men's and women's bandy teams can list what they deem a good list of names and of people for that. So yeah, I think it's something that they're all going to be proud of, and we can be proud of as a city. And me as a superintendent there, I'm really excited to see something like this happen. So thank you.
Moving forward, you I'm sure saw in the report, but the funding we had in the 2027 CIP, we had programmed in $100,000 for oval lobby repairs, and I actually recognized we had $35,000 for rubber and railings in the 2027 CIP. When we started talking about this project with the Friends initially early summer, as well as some of the user groups and pulling quotes together, I think the Friends of the Oval was very, very excited and said, we'd like to contribute $50,000 to it. And we envisioned that money really going to largely the benches and to some of those nicer to have amenities more than the bare necessities. So we don't, the Friends typically isn't interested in like replacing rubber, but nice benches that we can put some plaques on and things like that. That's really where they want that money to go. The total project is estimated at $120,000. We, with the Friends contribution, would propose using $70,480 CIP dollars as a maximum. This was programmed as 2027 CIP dollars. Frankly, the Friends, the user groups, we are pretty excited. So our proposal is to begin the project in 2026 with the idea that we may expend some of those dollars in 2026, but complete the project fully before the Oval opens in November of 2026. Last, I want to make sure to thank the Friends of the Oval Foundation for their generous contribution. They are, I think, a Friends group that at times can fly under the radar, and they absolutely deserve a tremendous amount of credit. Annually, they contribute between $15,000 and $25,000 to our operating budget, meaning that is directly deducted from our potential levy impact, which is huge. Recently, they contributed funds that made a significant upgrade to the scoreboard, as you recall, as well as contributed to bringing bringing the seasonal lights back to the Oval, which was a huge, huge add. The other couple things that I want to make sure to highlight that they do is, number one, they provide technical support. All of our web streaming is done by the Friends of the Oval Foundation at no cost. So these bigger events that we have that people can watch across the country, that's done by Friends of the Oval. And they've also helped us recruit some larger events, including our World Speed Skating Championship that will be coming up in a couple of years. So I did see former outgoing President Botzik behind us. I really want to thank Lucy for her leadership and the Friends of the Oval in general for their willingness to support this project. And our ask for the council is approve the resolution accepting the Friends of the Oval Foundation donation, as well as consider authorization of the $70,480 CIP dollars a few months ahead of schedule in 2026. So with that, I will open it up to questions and any feedback you have.
Great. Thank you both, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Elm. Questions from the council? I noted in the staff report there was some mention about sort of being ahead of things on the 2026 CIP in a way that may not have too much impact in terms of moving these things forward. I also recognize that a lot of times funds are set aside well ahead of time for projects, and so moving them forward doesn't necessarily endanger the fund overall, but I did want to just check with you on that and make sure I was understanding that correctly.
That's correct. Is we've had a number of those larger items. We had an elevator that's come in significantly under budget, a boards project that's actually being deferred and will come in under budget, and a couple other things. And that you read my intent exactly, which was to hopefully explain that we would not be requesting this push forward if we were at all concerned that it would endanger the fund. So,
All right, thank you. Other questions? We'll double check if there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this item this evening. I guess I shouldn't say double check. We'll check. If there's no one, I'll double check. All right. With that then, council, we've got the request both to approve the resolution accepting the donation and then also approve the project for the 2026 season or construction season.
So moved.
Second.
All right, that's moved by Councilmember Groff, seconded by Councilmember Strawn to take both actions, I presume.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
All right. Discussion on the motion as the maker, Councilmember Groff.
You know, we're very fortunate to have this. People talk about the Oval all throughout the metro area. I've heard it from other states even. And we're very fortunate to have that in Roseville. And I think the Friends of the Oval have done such a great job supporting it. And that's one of the main reasons I support this. It's kind of a combination thing with the community and with the city working together to make this project work. And I appreciate their work.
All right, as the seconder, Councilmember Strong.
I concur, and I thank you, Mr. Elm, for being there pretty much since the beginning on this, sounds like. And thank you for bringing your expertise and also your excitement for seeing this next prospect. I know we've asked many times from the state for funding, and we have not received as much as we need, so we really appreciate the Oval Friends for stepping in, and it's not insignificant, the things that they're offering every year, including the live streaming or that social media is a substantial way that families across areas can stay connected. So really, these are really important pieces. And like you said, hate to have them fly under the radar because these are really important pieces of who we are and what we expect and kind of come to expect in Roseville. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Other discussion on the motion? I think the only thing I would add is that having been in that area of the facility a few times, I always thought of it as kind of the back door. So maybe it is good that if we're considering it the front door, that we make it a little more like the front door of the facility. So I am certainly supportive of this request. With that, we've got the motion before us to both adopt the resolution accepting the donation and authorize the project for 2026. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously, and that is approved. And we'll see you later on in our agenda.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. That then brings us to our next business item, item 7B, which is to hold a public hearing and consider approving a liquor license for Adventure Park LLC, doing business as Blast Off Play Park. They're located at 2325 Prior Avenue North in Roseville, and I believe, Mr. Trudgeon, you'll be introducing this item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, this is for liquor license, on-sale liquor license and Sunday liquor license for Adventure Park at 2325 Prior Avenue. That's the former Cadillac dealership. If you're familiar with that area, you can see it from Highway 36. Blast Off Play Park is a new business opening as an indoor play park, restaurant, bar, kitchen, and party rooms. My understanding is they're going to have a variety of different things for families to be entertained with. They're moving forward with their remodeling. They're asking for their liquor license approval. My understanding is most likely they're probably not going to be open until November, so they're just doing their due diligence now to get that liquor license in place. They have provided all the necessary information, and we do recommend that City Council does approve this. We've also made them aware of the city's alcohol compliance training requirements. This is a public hearing, so we should open that up. I'm not sure if the applicant is here. I am not seeing them, but turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor, for the public hearing.
All right, thank you. And I will open up the public hearing. And once again, we do have to have a public hearing in order to approve liquor licenses in the city, and so this is the opportunity for members of the public to speak to these requests. And we have a member of the public speak to this one this evening.
Roger Hess, Wagner Place. There wasn't a sketch of the layout of the building in the packet. Do you know what the seating capacity will be for this?
I do not.
Because I'm wondering if it goes to the 50% or the 25%.
The requirement is that 50% of the sales have to be from non-alcohol.
But that only goes up to 174 seats. If it's over 174, then it's 25%, correct?
I don't have the quota in front of me.
And that's what the code says. That's why I'm wondering if it reaches 175% or not, or 175 seats or not.
I can't answer that right now. I don't think.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think they're remodeling. I'm not sure they've finalized it. I think if
Because aren't they supposed to put the sketch of the place when they give you their application? Isn't that what the code says or the application says?
This is not some level I typically get into, so I don't know exactly what is typically provided.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering if they come under the 50% or the 25%. All right, thank you.
Any other members of the public who wish to speak at this public hearing? I will close the public hearing, and I would note that as part of the city's due diligence on administratively providing for the license after council approval, of presuming that happens, that those matters ought to be looked into, and I expect they would be, so.
Yes, it would be.
Mr. Trudgeon is confirming that. With that, we have the request before us to consider approving the on-sale liquor license as requested, which is an on-sale intoxicating and Sunday liquor license for the city of Roseville.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Groff, seconded by Councilmember Bauer to approve that license as applied for. Discussion on the motion is the maker of the motion, Councilmember Groff.
Oh, I wish them well, and be sure and have your training up as Mr. Trudgeon said, so that the servers know what the process is and don't come before us with problems with serving to underage.
All right, as the seconder, Councilmember Bauer.
No, I just echo those thoughts.
All right, other discussion on the motion, Councilmember Strong.
This particular spot's been open for a long time, so I hope that this new and a bit different utilization for this space will be beneficial and provide long-term prosperity to that neighborhood, which sometimes kind of has been sitting for a while. So, good luck.
All right, other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. That license is approved. That then brings us to item 7C, which is to receive a presentation from the Roseville Area Community Foundation and consider an approval of an amended agreement regarding the disbursement of the lawful gambling proceeds. And so as we're welcoming folks to the table, Mr. Trudgeon, I don't know if you want to give a little bit of introduction as to what the Roseville Area Community Foundation is in big terms and how it fits with the city of Roseville, and then we'll turn it over to our guests for their presentation.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As mentioned in the staff report, the City of Roseville has had a partnership with Roseville Community Foundation. Its former iteration was North Suburban Community Foundation, dating back to 1991. And that partnership really shares the lawful gambling proceeds that we receive under our ordinance, the 10% of the funds from the various different groups that do lawful gambling in the community. To put back into the community to disperse grants out to nonprofits. It's been a longstanding practice of the group to really spend a lot of time and making impacts to the community. Over time, we've amended the ordinance here and there, and I'll get into the amendments later. But one of the requirements that we have in our code is that members of the Roseville Area Community Foundation come and provide an annual report. And that really hasn't happened. So as we were talking with our friends on the board there, we thought first we should have them come forward and talk about their work and what they've been doing this last year here, and then perhaps we can jump into the specific amendments to the agreement. So here tonight is Dawn Brown-White, the chair of the Roseville Area Community Foundation, and Jim Reeby, who's also on the board as well, to talk through a little bit about what they do. So if it's all right, I'll turn it over to them.
All right, hello and welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you both again.
Well, thanks for meeting with us. We really, really appreciate your time. Again, I'm Dawn Brown-White. I'm the president of the foundation. I'm also a nonprofit leader in the community, and I'm an executive director with 2 other organizations. But this one is really near and dear to my heart. I'm going to quickly go over a little bit about the foundation. So as you can see from the packet, we have a mission to invest in our community and to enhance the quality of life for Roseville area residents. So our geographic area is the Roseville City geographic area, and as well ISD 623. So as many of you probably know, that goes all the way out to Edgerton, Little Canada, because Roseville Schools has 9 elementaries. Our vision is that Roseville will thrive as a community when its residents experience enhanced programs and services that cannot be accomplished without the funding. So if you ever have a chance to go to our website, we always have a list of grantees, and they go all the way back. And so you can see exactly who we give funding to. We're here today to thank you for your faith and trust in us. We've never once gotten a call from the city asking us, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Are you following the law? So we really do appreciate that trust and partnership that we have with you. We want to update you today. And then, as we talked about, we are here to request a change to our agreement. I know you know the history. So in 2017, we changed the name from the North Suburban Area Community Foundation to the Roseville Community Foundation, largely because other area cities around us had their own foundation, and the money came from Roseville. So Tammy Poost, as many of you know, she led that charge. On this page, I also have the numbers for you. Our current equity is 2.4 million, and we've granted out 1.185,628, and that's as of the end of June. So our community grants, 80% go to the community, and 20% of the money goes to ISD 623. So that's the total since 2017. We have 2 grant mechanisms. So as you're out and about in the community, I hope you'll remind people and send them if they are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We don't fund individuals, but you can send them to us, and we will certainly entertain their request for funds. On our website, we have a grant eligibility wizard form, and we have our grant guidelines, and then we've created a little 3-page handout on how to apply for a grant. And every single word that's in there came from a question or from somebody not filling in a request properly. Or, for example, in COVID, a lot of people had a lot of time on their hands, and so we were getting some really all over the place grant proposals. And so then I sat down and did our eligibility guidelines, which asks 14 questions. And the number one is, are you in Roseville, Minnesota? Because we got a request from Roseville, California. So we knew right then, we just have to help people narrow it down, because we're all volunteers, and we do not have all the time in the world to review a whole bunch of requests that don't meet the guidelines. So ISD can apply for up to $2,500 per project, program, or event. And so the middle school can apply for like 5 requests a year or 10 requests a year or whatever. But it can only be a maximum of 1 grant per project. And 501c3s can apply for up to $5,000 a year total for the organization. And then before they get their second grant with us, we have a project report form that they send us how the last grant did, and then we take that into account when we talk about granting them another grant. This year, because of all of the events in our city, and I don't need to tell you how Roseville was affected by that, we created a brand new initiative called Meeting the Moment. And that is for situations where a nonprofit organization has a situation that is beyond the control and outside of their normal operating, and that is for unmet, emerging, unforeseens, and urgent needs. So, for example, the first organization we granted was St. Michael's Church for their rent program. And we immediately gave them $20,000, and that added to the amount of money that they were getting donated to them. Mary Jo McGuire came up with those 4 words in a meeting. We had a strategic planning meeting, as it turned out, in February. And then we were trying to, how are we going to explain this to the community? And then, so she just rattled it off right off the tip of her tongue. So emerging, unforeseen, urgent, or unmet. So for example, we just got a request from a theater company for amplifiers and microphones and all of that. And we thought, you know what, in the normal course of business, you should have realized that you would have to replace your sound system and have a fund for that. So they can apply for up to $5,000 a year, but we felt that that wasn't urgent, and it wasn't probably unforeseen, and it wasn't a situation out of their control.
So question on that?
Yes.
So just to be clear then, so you have your time per year that you give funds, but if it's one of these emerging unforeseen or unmet, they can get it at different times of the year? Is that what?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So 4 times a year, we have our normal grant rating. It's called our responsive grant, and it's on our website. So it's September, December, March, and June. But Meeting the Moment, Jim Reby is our chair, and we have a meeting set aside every Friday from 9:30 to 10:30. And so if we don't have any requests by Wednesday at 5 p.m., then we call off the meeting. I mean, unless we have something else to talk about, which this has taken up more of our time lately. But if it's urgent and we get it by Wednesday at 5, then we will meet Friday. Now, what happens is we as a committee do not have the authority to spend that money. So we make a recommendation, Jim writes it all up, it goes to the full board, and if it will wait for a board meeting if it's within 2 weeks, and if it isn't within 2 weeks, we have in our bylaws the ability to do an electronic motion. And so one of our members will make an electronic motion and we'll approve it electronically.
Thank you.
So, yes, we are really on top of those. One thing we are not, and I have the list for you, but I want to assure you that one thing the foundation doesn't do is we do not do fundraising. We do not have a development director, even as a volunteer. We do not go head to head with our organizations raising money and competing against them. So like bridging and, community dental and all the rest of it. We're not out there trying to raise money. That said, occasionally we do get a check from a family. Their parents passed away. They know Roseville is really important to mom and dad, and so we'll get a check for $500 or $1,000. And way back when we used to have scholarships, and those wound down, and then the last scholarship that we had actually belonged to Moundsview School, and we spun that off over to that foundation so that they could administer it. So we will take donations, but we don't actively fundraise. We're led by, we are not led by paid staff. So again, we're all 9 of us are all volunteers. So you're getting a bargain with your administrative costs. We are not a fixer. So we don't tell grantees how to fix the problem that they're coming to us for. We assume that they are in the best situation to know how to fix the problem that they're addressing in their community. We do not dedicate our funding every year to the same organizations. It is whoever applies and however much money we have, and we go through the process. And some years we say yes to almost everybody, but some years we look at the application and like, no. That said, if the Fire Bears are applying for money or the speech or debate, I'm telling you, I will never not vote for those Fire Bears. Those kids are amazing. And the last one is we don't restrict our board composition. So we look at who's on our board and what skills we need, and then we go out and try to find people in the community. Right now we have 9 people, and that seems to be about the right number. But I think our bylaws allow us to have 15. So if you know of anybody, and everybody thinks giving away money is just like the easiest thing in the world to do, and it is not. But anyway, so Jim's going to take over and talk about our last 3 years.
Yes, so good evening, Mayor Rowe and members of the council and Mr. Trudgeon. We wanted to just present kind of a high-level view on this slide about our financial operations. So you can see for the 3 periods that we're presenting, we receive about $100,000 a year from the city of Roseville from charitable gambling proceeds. And we have granted, the grants and the number of grants have been increasing the last 3 years. We did some outreach last year to make sure that we're getting the word out about what we do and how people would go about applying for a grant. So in 2024, we granted about $154,000, and that constituted 29 different grants. And if you look at 2025 and 2026, we're granting about twice as much as we did 2 years ago. And the number of grants have also about doubled. And as Dawn had mentioned, our admin costs are really low. somewhere around the range of $10,000 to $15,000 at most. And we have a money manager, and roughly those expenses have been about $10,000 for each of these 3 periods that we put together. Most importantly, and I think one thing that brought us here, is when North Suburban closed its doors and we took over, their total assets were about 1.3 million. So you can see, as in 2025 and 26, we're expecting that our total net assets is going to be about 2.4 million. So that's over $1 million that we've received in the last 9 years since the foundation came into existence.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you explain why you doubled the amount of grants that were awarded? What caused that?
Sure. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. Mayor Rowe and Councilmember Schrader. Like I had mentioned, we did some outreach a couple of years ago, and to try to get the word out in terms of, who we are and what we do and how much, the process that an applicant would take in order to receive funds. So I think that resulted in a lot of extra applications that we received based on that outreach.
So one of the things I did is I went to the Parks and Rec booklet that you all print, and I looked at all the sports teams, and they all have email addresses. So I just emailed every single one and said, hey, this is the foundation, this is what we do. And so now basketball apply for money and other organizations. So it's really trying to get the word out so that it isn't like the best kept secret in Roseville. But this year we did have extraordinary expenses because of the Meeting the Moment funding that really skyrocketed our giving this year, because that was over and above all of the other. And then we did, I think I have on here, we gave extra funding to the ISD 623. They came to us, asked us especially, and they have schools that are Title I schools that they don't have the functioning PTAs that maybe Parkview does. And so we have a special initiative for those Title I schools, because those are the kids who need us the most. Then you can see from the next slide, in COVID, we gave money away to seniors, the Sheridan Story, the Coalition, and then the Ramsey County Collaborative, which everybody is very familiar with. And then we did try to do a major initiative. So we too were sitting around at home during COVID, wondering what we can do with the foundation. And so we had a major initiative where we did what we call an RFP. So we put the call out to organizations, telling them that we would fund a maximum of $50,000, a maximum of $25,000 a year. And so we had about 12 different applicants, and we ended up granting to 3 of them. So lastly, you had asked me about equity, and that's the next thing that we are doing as a foundation, is improving our project grant reports so that we have exact demographic numbers from the people that we grant money to. So that will be coming probably next year. We'll have or the year after, we'll have a much cleaner idea. But because 36% of our grants, or 20% of the money, goes to ISD 623, I listed for you their racial makeup, and that we fund extra for Title I schools. And then I just cherry picked 3 of our recent grants, Keystone Bridging and Community Dental, and gave you the racial makeup for those organizations. So, but I can tell you, for example, there's the, we did the Juneteenth. We've done Juneteenth 2 or 3 years in a row, and that is, while it is not 100% only African American or Black people that go, because I've gone myself, it is really targeted for our African American and Black communities. So we really do look at all of our requests and try to make sure that they are serving diverse populations as much as possible, and not just obviously not just racial equity, but age and abilities or learning differences. We look at that very, very carefully. So that is our report. Does anybody have any other questions?
The questions? Councilmember Bauer.
On your 990, you list for your assets, about half is with donor restrictions, half is without donor restrictions. Can you expand on that?
Sure. So our agreement our second agreement identified how much money that the city gives us and how much of that has to go into a permanently restricted fund, and that was 50%. And so when everybody knows that the stock market's gone crazy good in the last 6 years, and so that money from the city, while some of it we couldn't spend, it went into restricted. Then we just had incredible gains in income because we invested it, and so that's how we ended up with those two pools of money, and they're approximately equal, as you say.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
No, it did. I just wanted people to
Yeah.
listening
yeah.
to
So
understand where that equity and why it's so large.
Yeah, it's because we have a really, really good money manager. In fact, he has us in one fund that grew at 65% last year. And we're like, how come mine doesn't do this? But I can give you his name later.
I was just
But,
going to say.
yeah.
Other questions? Councilmember Strawn.
I was just curious, it indicates that we haven't been having an annual report. Do we have a schedule or some kind of plan now moving forward on how we obtain the information from the organization?
Yeah, I think Pat and I have talked, and Pat was actually on our foundation, and so he's an honorary member, still on our website. But he didn't bring it to our attention. I didn't bring it to our attention, and I knew about it 2 years ago. But I was like, we're all volunteers, and I thought, well, let's really get a few more things straightened out before we come before the council. So, but now I think we have it on the books for every August or whenever your less demanding period is. So that's our plan going forward.
Foundation's fiscal year ends in June, so sometime July and August will be the appropriate time when they can talk about the past year.
And it won't be the audited numbers, so what you'll see on the 990 could be different than what we report, just because, we have an auditor, we have an accounting firm, they do the 990. So it could be slightly different.
I would just add to Dawn's response that the second amended agreement had a provision in it that we would do a presentation upon request, which was not consistent with what the city ordinance requires. And that was part of what got vetted as we met with the mayor and city manager to discuss changes to the agreement.
Good news is we got it all sorted out. So
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Other questions? All right. Well, thank you for the presentation and all the good work that you do in the community. It probably makes sense to transition into the discussion about the proposed amendment to the agreement. And I don't know, Mr. Trudgeon, if you're going
I
to lead
can do that, and I would ask maybe just remain at the table in case there's some questions here. So first of all, in your packet is this third amended agreement, I believe is attachment 3. And just want to call attention to it. First of all, thanks to City Attorney Tierney for helping just draft up a cleaner agreement and obviously making this substantive changes, but also just kind of cleaning it up. The two items I would really point you to is section 2, which is on the first page, where it says that the Community Foundation is only required to place 25% of the lawful gambling proceeds received from the city into the permanent endowment. Councilmember Bauer asked about that earlier, about the 50-50 split. So up until this point, 50% of all the lawful gambling proceeds had to go into permanent endowment, leaving another 50% for granting. Given the size of the endowment and the amount of funds, I know the Community Foundation is really interested in getting more dollars out into the community, and I think we can all see the logic in that. So this would change from 50% to 25%, meaning, I know there's a lot of percentages here, 75% of the proceeds that we give to them can be recycled back into the community and not put in the endowment. Still 25% is put into the endowment to make sure that it's strong and stable. The other one, and this is really for clarification, where under section 3, changes were made to allow up to 75% of the fund's assets in excess of the permanent endowment. It can be distributed to community nonprofits through the grants in the schools. The current agreement only allows for 75% of the income for the fund to be distributed. It's a little unclear what is considered income and not, so what we wanted to do is just added clarity for the, to allow for the fund's income, including market gains to be, that have accumulated above the permanent endowment to be distributed to community nonprofits. So it's a clarification. I think the board members really wanted to make sure they were clear in what dollars they could spend, and it behooves us to make sure we try to be as clear as possible as well. So you can have misunderstandings of what actually is income and which is not. So we try to make that as clear as possible, and hopefully it is moving forward. So those are the two main changes in there. Mayor Rowe, I know you were in many of those meetings as well. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to those explanations or the changes into the agreement.
Sure. No, one of the things is that, as has been noted, the fund balance is doing very well, and we will be talking about who your manager of your funds is. I understand it's E.F. Hutton. No, actually, about 3/4 of this room just went, huh? But, that dates me. No, I think the important thing is that the 25% as opposed to 50% each year going into the permanent endowment maintains the permanent endowment, doesn't sort of allow it to go away. And certainly we could even discuss if we want to change that now, but I mean, I think we can just continue to monitor and make sure, what makes sense going forward. Certainly the permanent endowment is very healthy and can't be touched for making grants necessarily, so that may not need to continue to be the case. But it certainly was a recognition of that fact, and so it didn't make sense on an annual basis for 50% to go into the permanent endowment. The other part on the 75% of the income, it was really, I think, being interpreted probably by everyone as 75% of the annual income. And so the notion is that each year there is income gained by the fund, and that's all that can be granted out in any given year. And what the changes are is to say, basically, depending on what the need is out there and the ability to process applications, that conceivably the foundation could grant up to 75% of the non-endowment funds in the fund altogether, with the safety valve of that 75% limit, so that the other 25% would remain in the fund, and that stays the rule going forward, which should preserve the fund and preserve the ability to do grants going forward, but at least provides more opportunity to fluctuate from year to year and to meet any given need with the grants that are made available, because I think that was one of the big asks of the foundation board members when they were talking with Mr. Trudgeon and I, was the ability to grant more money, with the recognition that the whole point of this under state law and city code is to get money into hands of charitable organizations that need it to do good things in the community for people in the community. And so that was the idea. So hopefully that helps clarify those things and what the changes are from the original agreement. Mr. Reby.
Members might be interested in knowing, I did a little rough calculations on what the changes would have looked like historically if those parameters had changed back in 2018 when we first came into existence. And it would have allowed us to grant a little over $400,000 during that 9-year period of time.
Extra, you mean?
An additional
Yes.
$400,000.
But the only thing I want to say about this is, that does free up money for us to give away. However, our limit is $5,000 per, and that's our own rules, right? It's $5,000 and $2,500, and then right now we have meeting the moment. So you can see where 302,000 and we had 70 grants, we would have to suddenly be giving away, I don't know, like 300 grants a year to even get into that next level. And that's not even approaching the 75%. And we're a very conservative group. So I think it's great that we have a great, big, bold vision, and we don't know what will ever happen. I grew up in a town that had a tornado, and that devastated a whole community. And we all know that housing is a huge issue in all of our communities. And so, but I can just assure you that to spend like that much money, I mean, I don't even know how as volunteers we'd even do that, honestly, because we would have to, I don't know. It would be a monumental effort to be giving like 300 grants a year.
So, and the only point in follow-up to that is that way we don't sort of have to keep coming back every so often to continue to up the amount. This gives us sort of those broad parameters and can be an agreement theoretically going forward long past when we're all involved, although I might end up on the board at some point, you never know down the road.
So what it
'Cause
says
it just
is
happens.
they can do it, but they don't have.
They don't
to.
have to do
Correct.
it, right,
Which is the nice flexibility.
Well, and I think under the second amendment, that there was some expectation that there was a limit to only sort of, 75% of the 50% that the city
Right.
contributed each year to from our charitable gambling 10% money. And so that this all sort of was an effort to clarify a lot of that. There are a couple other sections that are not as substantial that Mr. Trudgeon didn't mention, but those helped clarify some of the administrative costs and calculations and things like that as part of this process. I was trying to make the agreement a little better as well. Other questions from the council?
So I think this is what Councilmember Schroeder was referring to. So it just rolls over to the next year if it's not used, and
Yeah.
it keeps building in your funds. But the
Correct.
goal is to put out as much as you have time for applicants that meet the criteria of your funds. Because
Correct.
it isn't a goal to just build a huge fund, it's a goal to be helping the community.
Correct. And as I say at every other board meeting, the person who dies with the most money at the end doesn't win, right? I mean, that's not what we're trying to do. We're really trying to meet community needs. And the stock market has been incredibly wild. Now, we don't know in 5 years, if the stock market isn't growing, if it's tumbling down, then obviously our spending will be adjusted, but then there will be more community need than ever. So now at least we have enough of a ceiling that we don't have to keep coming back to you every year. So that was the goal.
Councilmember Schroeder.
And the other thing would be, since you pointed out the administration costs are so low, that makes it even more of a challenge to spend your money, because it's not like you're hiring staff
Right.
to do it. So the money, the percentage of the money actually being put into the community is higher than some of the other nonprofits because of that low ratio. So
That's right. And in the agreement, I think works out that we could spend up to about $100,000 for administration every year as part of the agreement. And like I say, we're spending about $8,000, $10,000. So yeah, we have some amazing people who do a tremendous amount of work, and it's all to the good of the city. So.
Well, and certainly it's conceivable that going forward, if there is a desire to make more grants,
Yes.
maybe hiring somebody, a consultant or something like that, can help that process. And
Yep.
your limit on your administrative costs could help with that in terms
Yes.
of being able to do that.
At some point, we could be hiring a part-time clerical staff. I could see that coming.
I did want to ask a question, just because it was brought up a couple of times, about the quarterly grant process and the amounts that are the limits to folks that apply. Has that been something the board's been looking at over time to look at adjusting upwards to sort of keep up with costs and things like
Yeah.
that? And
So-
when was the last time that was looked at?
4 years ago, we raised the community, the 501c3 from 2,500 to 5,000. And of course, working in a nonprofit myself, I'm like, so we will be looking at that again in our next strategic planning, but that will probably increase because community dental and bridging and, they're all their heating costs. And as you know from the city, their healthcare costs are always going up. So I think it'll happen in the next 2 years.
Right. No, I would encourage the organization to continue to do that.
Yeah. We do not fund general operating, so we fund project programs or events. And the reason why we don't do that is because we don't have professional staff who can figure out what the outcome is. And so, but pretty well everybody can take their idea and put it in one of those categories.
All right. If there are no other questions from the council, maybe you can just have a seat off to the side for a moment, and we'll open it up for comments from members of the public.
Thank
Or
you.
questions?
Okay, Roger Hess, way in her place again. I was wondering, what is the amount that has to be kept in the permanent endowment?
It's equal to 50% of, currently 50% of the funds received from the city over the years. So there's not an exact dollar amount, it's just the percentage breakdown of what.
So like about how much is it right currently?
I would have to.
Well, if it was $100,000 last fiscal year, it'd be $50,000.
Are you talking about how big is the permanent endowment?
Right.
now? Yeah.
Well, that was the 1.3 million, I believe.
Okay, so that means there's like 1 million extra in the fund right now.
Correct.
Correct.
So really, if you really wanted to, you could suspend your ordinance about the 10% for 4 or 5 years and not affect anything, which would be really nice for the people who are actually generating this money. So,
That's
something to
fair.
think about.
All right. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak to this item this evening? All right, if not, then we'll proceed to consideration of the proposed third amended agreement. I did want to just address the comment and question there. So the whole purpose of this arrangement under state law and city ordinance is to help fund efforts in the community to help people, nonprofit efforts with the school district. Certainly, I suppose the notion is that the fundraisers who do charitable gambling in the community through pull tabs and the bingo hall and things like that, who contribute the 10% funds to the city for that purpose, would benefit certainly from the additional 10% that they might be able to receive. But I think the point that was set up under state law was that there are, besides those entities, other needs in the community and other entities that provide the funds to help with those needs. And this is a way that cities can provide that funding through the charitable gambling process in the state of Minnesota. And then the city set up our system to do that. I guess I would note that certainly we could theoretically suspend the 10%, but at the same time, is that really in the interests of the community? So I'll just put that out there. With that, we do have the request before us, and I don't know. All right, that's what I was looking for, was a motion. A motion by Councilmember Schroeder, seconded by Councilmember Groff to approve the third amendment agreement. Discussion on the motion as the maker of the motion, Councilmember Schroeder.
It's just wonderful that we can do this for the community, looking at the list of who's benefiting from this. There's some great organizations, and look forward to being able to even help people even more with this amendment. So thank you for your work, and I really look forward to seeing what else you're going to come up with.
All right, as the seconder, Councilmember Groff.
Yeah, I think these tweaks to the amendment make a lot of sense. Thanks for the presentation. I think that it makes the whole thing work much better to have these adjustments made to it. And as you said, we can revisit it in 4 or 5 years, and if things have changed, we can make changes at that time. But I think for the time being, this will be a great improvement. And I do want to thank all the board members that donate their time, because I serve on some other boards, and I know it's a time-consuming thing. But it is rewarding in the end, I'm sure, when you give to the different projects and you see things go up, like across the street from the firehouse, the mural that you helped sponsor with Arts Roseville, and things like bridging, as you mentioned, and Northeast Youth and Family Services. So we appreciate all that work in the community.
All right, other discussion on the motion? The other thing I just wanted to add, just in terms of the whole statutory framework, is that we also, as a city, do receive funds. I think we can receive up to 3% of the charitable gambling proceeds that aren't subject to the rules of the 10% to cover the city's cost of administering charitable gambling in the city. And I think right now our fee is something like 1 or 1.5%. It's 1%. So we're, I think we're being careful about that as well, so that those organizations are receiving, as much of the funds as they can to support their work that is supported by the charitable gambling efforts that they do through the pull tabs and the bingo hall and things like that. With that, I think we've fairly well covered that. And we have the motion before us to approve the amended agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. That amendment is approved. And once again, thanks to the folks from the foundation for being here this evening, and we look forward to seeing you about a year from now. That then brings us to item 7D under business items, which is a joint meeting with the Equity and Inclusion Commission. And so we'll give those folks an opportunity to come up and have a seat at the table. And I think we've got your name tags up there, your name badges for helping folks know who you are. I don't know if it makes sense to maybe take about a 5-minute recess just to allow that to happen fairly smoothly.
Minutes, yeah.
Yep. All right, 5 minutes. Probably make sure we're back on. It looks like we're back on screen here, so I'll just formally come back from our recess here. And once again, this is our joint meeting with the Equity and Inclusion Commission for the City of Roseville. And I'll turn it over to Chair Vimaretti to bring us up to speed on the joint meeting this evening.
Yeah, I think we can just start going around introducing names. Like you just said, my name is Praj Vimaretti, and I'm the chair of the commission.
There we go.
I'm Gabrielle Phillip Crawford.
We've got another one, yeah.
Do a little practice here. I'm Amanda LaGrange.
Paul Stanley.
I'm Gwen Gedkin. I'm Sophia Salinas Ruiz.
And I am Nicole Singaram.
So basically our agenda for today, we're going to start off this evening with why our work matters. Then we're going to follow with our priorities from last year and our progress from last year. Then we're going to continue with what we worked on, and then we're going to get council's feedback and discussion, and then we're going to finish off with our next steps and just closing.
So the reason our work is so important is our commission has a lot of goals to ensure that our community has access with equity access and can include everyone at all community events, throughout the city of Roseville. And so far, some of the work that we've done, we've been brainstorming events of what we could provide at them, how we can ensure that our diverse communities have access to everything the city can provide, and with the diverse community that resides within Roseville. And really, it's looking at accommodations for all of those individuals. A few examples is putting phone numbers on different flyers for individuals that may need interpreting services or perhaps they speak a different language and they might need some of those flyers translated into a language that's easier to be understood. And also to share information about those events. And then also making sure that there is accessibility for people who may have some physical challenges, finding out what that accessibility looks like at those events. And during Metro Surge, we had flyers that were printed in multiple languages to support those communities when there was the insurgence of those ICE raids. And so we also had been talked about after that point, we've discussed how we can continue that support for those communities and just encouraging more of that prosperous life in Roseville. And also encouraging people to go to those different events. Next slide.
It's sort of wild to think that it's only been a year since we were all together, and also it's been a long year. I'm sure you all have felt it as well. So when our commission was before you all last year, we set some priorities, which included supporting the strategic planning process, and specifically sort of two parts of that strategic plan around the pathways for residents of all backgrounds to shape city decisions and become better informed residents, as well as creating an environment for diverse stakeholders' participation at all levels of city decision making. And so sort of some specific areas that we flagged in support of that strategic planning process was around metrics, tools and strategies, figuring out ways to strengthen and encourage effective participation, and then working on open communication. And so sort of our status report on that work is that we're still in progress on metrics and engagement tools and strategies. We also have some questions and asks for you all later that you'll hear from my colleagues, so sneak preview there. On the open communication side, some of my fellow commissioners will also do a deep dive into the specifics, but we drafted a constituent response template. I'm sure many of you, or probably all of you, received a lot of inquiries through email during Operation Metro Surge, and so we saw it as an opportunity to help folks understand the role of commissions and how that differs from City Council, and how we also support community engagement. You'll also see more specifics on our new commissioner quick guide to help folks as they're onboarding into new commissioners. And there's sort of multiple times that we've realized that our commission can serve as sort of a testing ground for some of these new materials. That while we're just one commission, we can serve as the place to sort of try and prototype, iterate. So things like a new commissioner quick guide, we can sort of serve it up and draft it, but all of the commissions can benefit from that. And then one more area of progress that I forgot to put on the slide here is we also onboarded 5 new commissioners. So this time last year, there weren't as many of us around the table. And as you can imagine, it as a new commission that we're sort of all still learning our own way, to double in size was quite the lift. So a lot of good things. And so you'll get to hear a little bit more specifics on those two examples.
Yeah, certainly on the commission, there's things that come across our desk that we didn't really anticipate, Metro Surge being one of them. But the commission viewed it as an opportunity to problem solve and help support the community. During that time period, I think it was understandable that our community who felt threatened and under attack would reach out to not just elected officials, but also government bodies that represented support systems they could tap into to try to get some type of support for their concerns. Being the Commission on Equity and Inclusion, I think it made sense that we started to receive during that time period a lot of communication from our community. Some of that communication were in the form of like mass emails that were sent to multiple people, multiple organizations. But it's also important to note that members of our commission also received individual emails from individual constituents during that time period as well. And I think at that time period, we as a commission felt a bit uncertain on how to respond to that. As you know, our capacity is advisory, and we're given, Antonio does a good job of giving us strict instructions not to speak for the whole commission or for the city. So in those situations, when constituents do reach out to us directly, how do we respond and make sure that we're supporting them? Our response, at least in the short term, was to develop a template that we could use when we do receive that type of communication from the community, that we can send back and speak as a unified voice, guiding them in the right direction. And so I think you've probably seen that template that was developed by the commission at the time. And, you know, it's an attempt by us to, in a time of crisis that was relevant to our work, discuss how to balance the limitations of our role as commissioners with the ability to respond directly to constituencies. I think some of the questions that were raised in our discussion around those issues certainly were, we all have to have some type of public email available for the community to use to contact us. But then we're stuck not being able, at least not in our view, to directly speak on behalf of the government. So what do we do? What's in the scope of our role? I think, you know, the template is a way to address that to some degree, although I don't think it, you know, in our commission's work fully brought an end to that question of if we have constituents contacting us, what is our role in response to them? I know we can now give them a template, which I feel guides them in the right direction. But if the response they're going to get is going to be our template pointing out existing resources, that's something that we do have, a commission email that they can use. So then we did discuss in the commission, why is it that we individually are able to be contacted as well? If we're going to guide them toward the template, is that something that is state law requires? Is that something that that city regulations require? Or is that something that can be amended or changed in the future, knowing that we do have an email that's publicly available that we can use our approved communication methods to respond to constituents? So that's where that discussion ended.
So, like Commissioner LaGrange said, one of our priorities was open communication. What Vice Chair Stanley just presented on was specifically looking at communication between a commission and a resident that reaches out to a commission. And this specific initiative was looking at communication between the city and a resident who just got appointed to a new commission. And so our starting point was to see what was already existing, which was this commissioner's handbook. But like the slide says, this document is very long and very in-depth. It's over 30 pages, you know, and it's an important reference, but it's not an easy starting point. To quote Commissioner LaGrange, she believed that the document lacked humanity, which is something that I agree with, right? Starting civic service and giving back to the community should not feel like reading a legal code. So that brings us to our creation, which is this new Commissioner Quick Guide. The goal of this document was to take those 30 pages and then condense it into 3 pages and focus on what is pragmatic information for a new commissioner to know. It's broken into 3 different sections. The first page is the first 30 days, which is getting to know your staff liaison, getting to know the commission's work plan and strategic goals. The second page is focused on meeting flow, so Rosensburg's Rules of Order and how an agenda is structured. And the last page is focused on what the city expects from you as a new commissioner. And I think specifically where this ties to equity and inclusion is government jargon rewards people who already understand government. And the more you create plain English documents like this, it gives people who have a different civic or educational background an opportunity to participate more confidently. And again, it's a companion to the handbook, not to replace it.
All right, so we wanted to move into thinking a little bit more about what our goals are for the next year and what we plan to move forward and work on. So as Commissioner LaGrange mentioned, we did work on those communication goals, but we want to move forward some of the strategic planning related goals. And part of what we're thinking there is, again, working around developing tools and strategies that will help departments build and assess community engagement strategies. So how are we conducting outreach right now and bringing the public into conversation with the city? And part of what we'd like to do there is really kind of model the process of, as Commissioner LaGrange said, we can be a prototype for a lot of this work and test things out and sort of build strategies that work for our commission to do outreach and broaden from that to build guidelines for other departments and other commissions to do outreach. So we would like to hear directly from our constituents about how they see an appropriate prioritization of our commission's work. It feels awkward for us as the Equity and Inclusion Commission to make sort of top-down decisions of this is what's important to Roseville residents. We want to make sure that we're speaking for them in a way that really represents their needs and desires. One way we've talked about meeting this goal is possibly doing a direct community survey. Among the skill set of our groups, we do have training in development of surveys and doing community outreach and things like this. We would love to work with the city to conduct a survey. We understand that there's already a survey that goes out every other year, I believe. But again, we'd be looking for something short and specifically focused on priorities for this commission. And we hope that that would kind of have a double benefit of helping to inform our work directly, but also, again, developing a process for how do we build an engagement plan to get feedback from diverse members of the community, and how do we work with community groups, with different organizations to help bring more voices into the mix there. So documentation of the outreach process that we use would be an outcome of that we would then again use to build some tools and strategies for departments.
All right, to sort of close out our presentation tonight, we have a couple areas where council direction could help us move on. So first, we're wondering if the city could support our commission in conducting an equity-focused survey of residents. And then we're also wondering which city policies, procedures, projects, or services could most benefit from an Equity and Inclusion Commission review over the next year. And then we were wondering if there were any particular topics that we should prioritize moving forward. So thank you for your time tonight. The Equity and Inclusion Commission meets at 6:30 p.m. on the third, I believe it's a Wednesday.
Sorry.
That's good. Of each month here at the City Hall in the council chambers. And we would love for the public to come and give some public comment if they have it. And our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, September 16th at 6:30. So thank you.
So it's back to us now to answer some of these questions about feedback. Just to clarify on the survey, does the commission have sort of an idea of the mechanism of the survey? Would it be similar to the recent survey that the city conducted in terms of being sort of a phone survey by a survey entity, or is it something different than that? So if you have some thoughts and wanted to share those, I think that would be helpful for the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, we're not thinking of doing a representative sample through a traditional survey sampling method. Part of what we want to look at is exploring some different ways of reaching out. A phone survey is limited in who it can reach. There's not necessarily a representative cross-section of folks who answer the phone and will respond to a survey over the phone. So there are some limits to that method. We recognize that doing outreach via community organizations, social media, things like that, is limited in other ways, and we won't necessarily get a representative sample. But no, we're not asking for funds to contract with a consultant to run a survey. We would work together as a commission to design the survey questions, and what we would need support in is, of course, again, we can't speak for the city, and we would need to collaborate with the city on developing an engagement plan, putting it out there on city social media posts, perhaps if there's survey software available for hosting so that it's city branded, things like that. But the work of design and analysis would fall to the commission.
All right. And once again, it would be focused on the particular areas of interest that
Exactly.
the commission has and getting feedback from the community about your role.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. Other questions from council members or feedback on the questions from the commission? Councilmember Strawn.
Well, I love the quick guide, and I fully agree that everyone comes, if we are about access, which is part of that equity and inclusion, not everyone can access something at the same level. And so I think, and that's, I've seen as a goal of this particular group that there are differing language and educational and different backgrounds and abilities. And so we would, it's just great, I think, especially if that can be shared across other commissions too. And maybe as people explore being on a commission, because it seems quite frequent that maybe someone will get appointed to a commission and then not really understand what their connection is to it. They appreciate the mission, but they don't appreciate personally how they interact in it. And it's not anything wrong with them or anything wrong with the organization. It's just, it's not a good fit for them. So I appreciate that concept. I would be supportive of a community survey. I do agree that sometimes our approach or the way we would find people to be engaged might not be a young voter, or it might not be someone who is precariously housed, or might not be. So it would maybe take a bit of creative thinking to figure out where to find those people that are constituents in some manner that maybe differs from our traditional thinking. And that's long been something I've had concern about, our standing. And I know that I've grilled him and he tells me about all their methodology, but I still know that there are people who just aren't waiting for the phone to ring. My children never answer the phone. So you asked about areas of engagement. I know we continually are asked by people, asking about lock cameras and other things, and whether those are something, and I'm not going to speak for the council on whether that's something it would be a priority, but it is something that we get asked about pretty frequently, and yet the chief is feels pretty convinced that that is an asset to the police department, and we have the MAC, and so I'm assuming that the MAC has worked and explored some of those things, but sometimes some of the things that are just a given, we need to make sure that those aren't unfairly disadvantaging some of our residents. And then I also think of just access in general, languages. There are places where the bike trails just trail off, where are we making sure that people who have limited mobility or other, maybe taking a focus and saying, this year we're going to really explore people who have mobility issues and how they would get from point A to point B. Next year, we're going to explore people who have vision limitations and how would they access, or language limitations. And because I think each avenue that you take, you're going to find different things that stand in the way of full access for people. And we say we want to be an accessible city. And I think it's really, we can't look at it from all those different ways, but it would really be kind of reassuring to know that there is someone who's taking those considerations. And so those are my ideas, whether they speak for the whole group.
Councilmember Groff.
Yeah, thank you for the quick guide. I wish I had had that when I started on commissions, because the information is there, as you said, but it's a 30-page document and you kind of wade through it. Whereas when you're a new commissioner, it would really have been helpful to say, oh, this is what I do the first 30 days. This is who so that was brilliant, I think, and shared, of course, with the other commissions. I think that's really important to do. And share with the community, quite frankly, because it takes the fear away from being on a commission. People always ask me when I'm trying to encourage people to participate, but how much time does it take? What do I have to do? What are the processes? This kind of puts it in a few pages, so that is excellent. I would say, you're volunteers, so you can't take on everything we're going to talk about up here tonight. I think for your commission, you need to kind of focus in on what you as a group want to work on from the suggestions you hear. I think the survey, I would certainly be interested in seeing that go further. I'd want you to talk with the liaison with the city about that, obviously, and I know you'll do that, and make it it sounds like you have experience with surveys, so there is a talent and a skill to that, and you have to make it short enough so that people actually respond and all those things. So, I think you could glean important information on that if it's done correctly.
Right, Councilmember Schroeder.
Again, thank you all for being here. It's nice to see that you would all make the evening here tonight, so thank you so much. And the quick guide is, a nice thing to have, because I remember getting on my first commission and how long it took to figure out, how to just operate through that. So that was nice to see. The survey, I have to say, I have some concerns about that. We had in the past, when this commission was a different commission, that they started to go down an area that was legally, and other areas where it wasn't and then it wasn't in line with what the council was doing, because commissions are there to advise the council, and so it's you have to be careful about engaging in about things that you probably shouldn't get involved with, and so I'm sure your liaison, from the city will help with that to make sure. And then I would think I think the survey that was done is actually statistically done well, and so I think that was a good start to some of that area. So I guess before I would say I would support, I'd like to see what exactly are the questions you would even want to ask to make sure that we're not sending out different messages that way, and maybe having the community think you could do something that maybe isn't in your commission to do. So I want to be careful that if we're going to engage the community, that we're not going to disappoint them, because that could be part of it. Because I know sometimes commissioners will come on and say, well, that's not what I thought we were going to do, and then they leave. And you don't want that to happen with the community, to say, well, what do you mean? Here's my suggestion, and you're not going to do it? So that's why I want to make sure that the questions are well vetted, and if it makes sense that way. And it's always been a struggle to get community engagement over the years. So I understand how tough that is, to try to find people, and so to be able to figure out how to engage the different communities, they're great. And I do like the idea of broadening it. Commissioner Strawn talked about looking at disabilities and different things like that. I do like the idea that you're incorporating all of those aspects into it, because I had always said all along that I thought our equity program was too narrowly focused, that it needed to bring in other groups like people who vision and hearing and disabilities and some of those things too. So I'm really glad to hear you're working on that piece as well, and I would encourage to keep that incorporated in what you're doing. So those are my comments.
Councilmember Bauer.
Yeah, I would thank you again for coming here tonight. I would definitely encourage you to take a look at the survey that was just completed as a first step, and maybe spend some time analyzing that and seeing if you can draw something from that. I agree that that is a statistically valid survey and good data, and it also has been done for many years, right? So not just looking at the survey from the one that we just did, but also taking a look at the trends. It's quite long and quite detailed, and if you go back a few years, there's a lot of good data there. I think that might inform you. I share Commissioner Schroeder's, or Councilmember Schroeder's point about being careful with surveys. Engagement's not just a problem you have. If you turn around behind you, you'll see there's not many people in council chambers for city council meetings. It's even more difficult for commissions. However, I will tell you that there is something that is wrong in the community, you will have a lot of people showing up. I think the fact that there isn't people showing up during your meetings is a great sign as well. So I think that, not necessarily just a negative is a positive. I do want to take some time to address the email template, or the what to respond. I think that is a good question, and one that other commissioners face in other ones, especially like, for example, on the Planning Commission. I would encourage you to answer as individuals, right? So you cannot answer as, representing the whole commission or that of the city, but you can most definitely answer as yourself, and I think that is the opportunity. If people are emailing you in residence, they're emailing you and they want your thoughts on that. And doesn't mean that you are going to be able to achieve what you're saying to those residents. It doesn't mean that that's what the commission is going to say. And usually in emails, I put that these are my thoughts. We'll see what happens, at the meeting. I encourage you. Additionally, I can't speak for everyone here, but we get tons of emails as well, and we all respond to them. And I have no idea what they're saying, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to be different than what I'm saying. And I think that's really important for residents because they can see what each of us is thinking individually. So as far as what to say, don't worry too much about what you're saying and that it's uniform with what you as a whole commission is. Really answer it as an individual because I believe that's what they're really looking for. And that's why we have individual email addresses for commission members and council members rather than just the one for the whole group because I believe they're looking for that individual response and also if multiple people are answering, it gives them different perspectives. If you say it one way, then you say it a different way, it helps inform that. You may be seeing the same thing, but in different ways, and that's beneficial. So I would really encourage you to use the diversity of your, each of you on the commission to answer those and answer it in a personal way.
And I will just clarify on that of course, if you're trying to steer people towards resources that they need to avail themselves of in a particular situation, I think it makes sense that you all have the same list of resources or the same way to point people in the right direction. I think that makes sense in terms of a template. I would agree that, we're not asking you to give up your personal point of view and your personal opinion about things. And I think one of the challenges that this iteration of the commission and past iterations of the commission have always had is sort of the difference between and this gets a little bit to what Councilmember Schroeder said, what sort of the official, city code definition of the role of the commission is, and what everybody comes into it wanting to be able to do. And I think that's especially true in a commission that has sort of this area of focus in terms of equity and trying to make sure that everybody in the community is a part of their community and the decision making that we do. And so I think it's always good to as the commission is thinking about things, to take a bit of a step to look at sort of what is the official guidepost for the commission because of all the work and effort that went into, and it's not because of the work and effort, but because of the outcome of that, which was a definition that was felt to be something that can work for a commission. Because one of the senses is that there's so many different things that can be done that I think a commission can get into a place where they're sort of just trying to do everything and not being able to do anything terribly well. And it's not because you're incapable or couldn't do it. It's just that there's so much, and you are volunteers, and we don't expect you to spend 80 hours a week on your commission work. It just isn't a realistic expectation. And so I think that that sort of informs the notion of making sure that, for instance, looking at a survey, that you decide what is the information you really want to obtain from the community. And who are maybe the people in the community that you really want to get that information from, because that can inform the methods and the techniques. And I use plural for that because as you all know, there may not be one. It may not just be a phone survey. It may not just. Not that you're asking for a phone survey, but there may have to be more than one way that information or that request for information gets into the hands of the people that you're seeking it from. So I'd be interested to hear more about as was noted, sort of what you're looking to find out, and maybe thinking about ways to connect with the different folks that you're trying to hear from. I did want to say that specific to projects over the next year or two. Certainly, we've got our two things. Our Parks Master Planning process is sort of on the horizon here, and will be something that we'll be undertaking. And it may make sense to look at, specifically from that equity lens, how that process can go forward, and maybe how can it be different from the last time we did it, or what can we improve in terms of our way to connect with people in the community who, as was mentioned, may not be the frequent and or vocal park users, but turn out to have as important a say in some of those decisions as anybody else in the community. And then also our overall comprehensive plan effort, which will be largely driven by our planning commission. Once again, if there are ways that process can can better engage with the community that maybe doesn't always come to the meetings, or isn't the people that don't like the proposal that's before the city council or something like that. How can that process be informed by the work that you do? And I also want to make sure that we don't sort of, and I don't think you said this, but we want to make sure that everybody understands is that you're still working on the things in your strategic plan for this year that haven't been completed in terms of looking at some of those metrics and things like that. That's still I think very much in the core of what the commission is here to do and is ongoing, and so that's definitely a part of what's going on. So I think a big part of my expectation of you as a group is that you really focus on what you have the capacity for, and what makes the most sense to be working on, and have those. They're probably going to be kind of tough conversations amongst yourselves, but you've had a chance to get to know each other over the last year or so, and can hopefully have those conversations and bring it to. If there's a specific request, like on the survey, that you would say, well, we've looked at it more. City Council, what do you think about this? These are the questions we're looking at asking. These are the methods. We've looked at this other thing, and we think there's some things we can bring forward on that. I think, we don't have to wait for annual meetings. If there's specific, a couple of specific proposals that you'd like to look at, by all means, schedule an opportunity to be visiting with us and talking about those. Councilmember Strong.
I think having you really do a deep dive on the Leatherman study might be really eye-opening for you, because it tells us that 50% of our residents don't use our park facilities at all. So where does that go? Is it an access piece that is? So I think it can be really telling in kind of maybe give you some illumination and where we are missing that inclusion piece. So maybe your methodologies and your questions would be different, but maybe taking that, and I think, with some serious back and forth about it, that in the next, by the time we are ready to do it again, how could we have asked that question in a better way that actually elicits someone to participate in a way they haven't before, and thinking of the mailers and the things that go to their homes, and we're still missing a big chunk of people, and what is it that we're missing? What access point? Because I think that's the elusive thing that we're all seeking. And so if you and your equity and inclusion lens are able to look at that and help us guide us as a whole city, it really, I think, would be a fabulous outcome to that analysis.
Well, and I'll just add on to that I think the thing we always have to keep in mind as we're decision makers and talking about engagement of the community is that, as was noted in the survey, one of the aspects of things is that we may not hear a lot from people because people are generally pretty satisfied, and that's fine. The particular issues that might be before the city council, before the city, may not be that important to individuals in the community, and we have to respect that. But I think the key is that we're making sure that, especially in the realm of equity and inclusion, that the city isn't putting in place barriers, or hasn't put in place barriers that we don't even know about, to people participating who aren't in that category of perfectly satisfied and don't need to engage. And so that's, I think, the biggest challenge of all of this, is to make sure that the people who want to engage aren't running into those barriers that are preventing that from happening. So if you kind of think about it from that lens, I think that helps hopefully narrow the scope a little bit too, so that you can not spend all of your time on the broad scope, but maybe in a more focused fashion. So I do want to provide you an opportunity too, as a commission, if there's uncertainty about what we've been talking about as a council or providing feedback on, and it's absolutely true that it takes three of us to make a decision. And so if you hear 5 different things, that may or may not be a decision by the council. It probably isn't. But it may spur some conversation amongst commissioners in a way that, once again, if you have an idea or a proposal, you can go back to the council and we can talk about it and figure out what makes sense. So, but I turn it back to the commission because we've done a lot of talking up here.
Yeah. Could you repeat the Leatherman survey? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's the survey entity, the company.
Oh, I
the
see.
survey.
Okay.
It's called Morris Leatherman Group.
Morris Leatherman. Okay.
And so it was last month was
May
when it
el-
was presented to the council?
May 11th.
May 11th, there we go.
No,
So-
no,
or
we presented it at the July 20th.
July 20th.
Okay,
Oh,
we
that was,
talked
we
about it.
authorized it
Yeah,
on
yeah.
May 11th.
July
We
20th is
received
the
it July 20th.
Gotcha.
And we can get you a copy of that.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful because they had some really nice charts that really give a high level view, but then they broke it down.
Yeah, look at the whole survey, all the there's a lot of questions. I think that even just take a whole meeting and just go through that. I think you'd be really
Well,
amazed.
you can, of course, decide what's your agenda.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, it's a great reference piece.
No, so we definitely look forward to seeing the new version of it. We did have a meeting where we reviewed the most recent version and met with a
Nice.
staff member who oversees that. So we definitely are interested in seeing those data.
Nice.
Have we given you enough to chew on for a couple of commission meetings coming up here? I think that the key is that we want to make sure that we're providing you beneficial and helpful feedback. I think our past history with prior versions of the commission and the scope that they had, I think it was a point of frustration that the joint meeting sort of ended in everybody going and nobody really knew for sure what was supposed to happen next. And we certainly don't want to be in that position going forward here. So if there's anything, once you've had a chance to sit and think about it in your own space and come back as a commission and talk about it, if there's things you're not sure about what we're suggesting or asking about, or whether or not you think we've given you guidance as a council or as 5 individuals, certainly you can feedback that to us. It doesn't even have to be, through a discussion like this at a council meeting. I think you can work through your liaison to get those types of questions back to us as well, and we can try to inform the process that way too.
So I think a good plan we can discuss as a commission, but we can take a look at the survey. We can see what a version would look like if you create a new one. Obviously, we'll get council approval on that if we do that. And then definitely like a project like the Parks Master Plan could be like a good starting point for an equity inclusion review and then go from there. But again, we'll discuss internally, Paul and I, especially with Antonio.
Have we given you a positive, like I'm ready to go do some things, or are you scared to death, or where are you at right now?
No, this is very helpful. You've been an excellent sounding board for our ideas, and it's helpful to hear the suggestions and the direction. So yeah, we'll be continuing to focus on looking at those metrics for the strategic plan, and we'll continue developing our ideas for building community engagement strategies.
Great.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you all for your service on the commission and being volunteers that are engaged and interested in the work, and look forward to where you go from here.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next agenda item this evening is item 7E, which is to consider a request to perform an abatement for unresolved code violations at 2799 Merrill Street. And we have our code officer, David England, with us this evening to bring this item before us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As described, this is a request to perform an abatement of unresolved city code violations.
Could you move your microphones back?
Oh, yeah, grab one of them anyway, and
Yeah.
perhaps that one.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, I'll start over. As described, this is a request to perform an abatement for unresolved city code violations at 2799 Merrill Street. This is a single-family home that we've had contact with previously on occasions. The violations that were noted at the time were, I should back up. We were asked to go to the property for a complaint based on a tree limb that was down and a fence panel that was down due to the storm damage from earlier this summer. When staff was on site, we did discuss the issue with the homeowner. She had described that she was working with her insurance company to get that remedied and taken care of as soon as possible. While we were there, we did notice numerous other violations that were on site. We had 4 vehicles that were unlicensed, 2 of which were apparently inoperable or showed signs of being inoperable. We had junk debris, other items stored outside on the driveway, and the grass was in excess of 8 inches. Since that time, we've had numerous conversations with the property owner and some contact. We weren't getting very much progress on the violations. We did provide the notice of this meeting, which routinely has an impact on the progress. But since that time, we did order the accelerated abatement for the grass. The homeowner did make some progress on that, so that was not conducted. The homeowner was able to conduct her own grass cutting over the weekend. We verified that today. We did verify significant progress related to the vehicles and the outside storage today. It was not completed to a level that I was willing to remove that from council consideration tonight. Before this meeting, I did receive an email from the property owner requesting additional time to get her vehicles operable and removal of the junk and debris, which she had stated tonight that she had just been able to restart her garbage service. So that should be beginning tomorrow, Tuesday, in her area. So we're hopeful that that will lead to a lot of the debris being removed tomorrow, as well as the vehicles. She had hoped by this weekend to have the tires repaired and the vehicles in operable condition. I didn't give her any idea what council would decide to do on this matter, but I told her I would present that to you, that she is requesting that extension. Staff still does recommend approval of the abatement for the outside storage of the junk and debris and the vehicles. Should council wish to offer a stay of enforcement, that is obviously completely up to you. The approval of the abatement helps staff because that allows us an at least monthly reinspection for 1 year based on code enforcement policy. So that brings us back to the property without needing a complaint from a resident. So, like I say, today was encouraging, but not completely encouraging. So staff would request that abatement if council would decide to do so.
Great, thank you, Mr. England. Are there questions from the council for staff on this item? Councilmember Bauer.
We've had previous issues at this address, correct?
Yes, we have. Yes.
Can you refresh my memory what that history looked like or looks like?
I know in 2019 there was an approved abatement for vehicles similar to this. We had grass complaints in 2024. We had vehicle complaints in 2024. The property owner is very communicative and willing to address the issues that we report to her and note her on, but it is continual. But again, this opportunity to come to this meeting helps in the enforcement process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great, other questions, Councilmember Strawn?
Does the property owner reside at this address?
Yes, she does. Yeah, she's a long-term resident.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Councilmember Schroeder?
So in the previous issues, did we actually then go ahead with the abatements and then have to follow through, or did she at the last minute take care of it?
In 2019, we removed a vehicle from the property, and I will say since that time, we've had very good cooperation when we notice the property, and reasonably quickly the property owner does address the noted concerns. And I don't know if the property owner did decide to come tonight to council. I did provide her with that information to come on her behalf, but I did receive her emails.
Great. Any other questions from council? Right. Is the property owner or a representative of the property owner here this evening? Does not appear to be the case. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this requested proposed city abatement of code violations at the property at 2799 Merrill Street? Does not appear to be the case. Council, we have the request before us from staff to perform the abatement of the remaining violations, and there is the question of whether a stay of enforcement would be appropriate. Thoughts from the council or a motion?
I make a motion to move forward with the abatement of the property.
I'd second it.
All right. Discussion on the motion. Is the maker of the motion Councilmember Bauer?
Yes, this is an address that is familiar to us. This is not the first time. I do appreciate the property owner working. However, including the council documents is the timeline. It's been over about 2 months since we've given notice. There's plenty of time to address these issues, just like it was plenty of time last time. So therefore, I feel it's correct to move forward with an abatement here without any kind of extension.
As the seconder, Councilmember Schroeder.
Yeah, I would agree. It's, they're continued, when we have repeat, and that until something gets to that point, nothing gets done. I think there's been plenty of time. So yes, I would support it.
All right. Other discussion on the motion? I did want to clarify, Mr. England, again on, so going forward, is this sort of on the staff's radar for some repeat visits back, just to sort of try to stay on top of some of these issues more proactively?
That is correct. Yes, we use the approved abatement, similar to other properties that have come before you. Then we came out monthly, and then if properties backslide after an abatement, then we can notify them quicker for the neighboring residents' benefit.
Right, and I believe that's a process set forward in our code, if I'm not mistaken. Or
It is in policy. It is not in code.
Got it. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. All right, Councilmember Strong.
Just a clarifying question. Can you maybe estimate about how much of the progress had been made since the last time, or when we brought this forward? We've seen 20%, 50%?
We're about 80%.
Okay. I would be interested in giving a week time and then having an abatement, since we've seen 20%, but
Is that a motion?
that is a motion.
Motion to amend and provide a stay of enforcement of 1 week.
1 week.
Is there a second to that motion?
I would second that.
All right.
1 week.
All right. Discussion of the motion as the maker of the motion to amend and add a week's stay of enforcement. Councilmember Strawn.
I mean, we're saying that they have been responsive in the past. It's unfortunate that they continue to be in this situation, but probably over time, and they're a resident, they may have health or other issues. If we've seen an 80% improvement in the last couple weeks, I think that's a significant sign of cooperation. And if next Monday it's not done, they know what to expect. So I feel like that gives you the opportunity to know what to do to move forward, and it gives her the opportunity to have that little bit of grace that she's asked for.
All right. As the seconder, Councilmember Groff.
I would agree with that, and then, of course, Mr. England would be still able to go back and check on this, because I think the situation with this property and with, when they keep recurring, is they do have to be kind of checked on more frequently than other properties, and I think just to show some willingness to work with the city. I know it's been 2 months, I do understand that, but people do have health problems, they do have family problems, they have other problems. If they are making 80% effort here, 1 more week to do the 20%, if that's their deadline, then they know what's happening next Monday if this isn't taken care of.
Other discussion on the motion to amend? Councilmember Bauer.
I guess I'd be comfortable with giving you the extra week. I would encourage staff to be quick on bringing forward abatement asks for this property going forward. I think this time we gave them 2 months. I think, we'll give them a week this time, but, I'll leave it to staff to decide. But I would like to see if there is issues with this property to have those come before us in a timely manner.
Is the maker of the motion willing to just amend the original motion incorporating the stay?
I am.
All right, that will simplify things. So now we are on the original motion as amended by the maker of the motion. I'm presuming the seconder of the motion agrees to that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The original motion as amended then to provide the 1 week stay of enforcement. Any additional discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. thank you again to staff on this, and we'll be keeping an eye on this among our other watch properties, so to speak. All right. That then brings us to item 7F, which is to consider approval of a hotel license for Rose Hospitality LLC, located at 2401 Pryor Avenue. And I'll turn it over to City Manager Trudgeon to bring this item before the council.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, we're here to consider the hotel license for Rose Hospitality operating at 2401 Pryor Avenue. As you are aware, the city does require hotel licenses to operate in the community. They have applied for this license. They are new owners of the property, I think sometime in June. You may recall this site was the former Norwood Inn. And on March 24th, 2025, the City Council denied granting a hotel license to the owners of Norwood Inn due to numerous pervasive code violations. Rose Hospitality are the new owners that have made substantial financial investment in maintaining and improving the hotel. Our inspectors from the Community Development Department and Fire Department have been out there checking on their progress, and we are pleased to report that they have completed all necessary improvements to the property to be fully code compliant. They are looking, they being Rose Hospitality, to operate initially as the Roseville Budget Inn. They are working with Wyndham to rebrand those properties later in the fall to Baymont Inn and Days Inn, kind of a co-brand there. As you know, as we typically go through this, we do make sure that we have the listing of all interested persons, complete a background check. They have provided us that list, and they have passed the background check. We do also take a look at any outstanding utility bills, back taxes or anything. They are current with everything with the city. Once again, these are new owners, so really starting from June. I would also mention typically we talk about police calls and other calls for repeat nuisance. This is a brand new owner. And this property's been closed for well over a year, and they have not taken possession. So it's not directly relevant to today, but we do address it in the resolution here as well. So I know representatives from Rose Hospitality and Wyndham are here. They've been patiently waiting tonight, so they may want to say a few words. In the packet, I did have some pictures. I can just maybe pull them up real quick of the rooms as they stand today here. And you can see just a couple examples of bedrooms and bathrooms and the improvements that they have made. They're very nice. So we certainly appreciate them working with the city, and the inspections team to make sure everything has been code compliant. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. And as I mentioned, there's representatives here who may want to speak as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Trudgeon. Are there questions from the council? Councilmember Bauer.
Can you refresh my memory? Was this property condemned at one point? And if so, did we do the necessary things to, I guess, remove that or issue not the necessary certificates of occupancy or whatever it may be called?
Yes, thank you for the question, Councilmember Bauer. Yes, it was condemned, and they had multiple violations ranging from building code to fire code issues, including very important life safety issues such as the fire suppression system. Those were all compliant, is my understanding. Mr. England is here to answer any particular questions you may have, but they have invested dollars into making sure everything was pulled with permits, done properly, and are in compliance with all codes that are required.
And I guess my question is more so, and we've done the necessary things to issue, to undo the condemnation of that property.
Well,
or is that even a necessary thing? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, kind of which comes first, the license or the
Yeah, I just want,
the
it's more of a
certificate
procedural
of
thing
occupancy.
and making sure that we're dotting the i's, crossing the t's.
Yep. The certificate of occupancy was restored last June when they completed the previous owner completed the necessary
That's right.
building permits and life safety items to restore the certificate of occupancy, but they were still denied their license.
All right. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to know.
Okay. Councilmember Strawn?
Are any of the owners or interested parties involved in the other hotel within Roseville?
My understanding, no.
Okay.
You can
And they
answer
can certainly clarify if they wish
If
to.
there is, let us know.
We don't have in Roseville. This will be our first.
We'll give you an opportunity to speak directly at the microphone so we can
Okay.
record
Sorry
that
about
for the record, but thanks for
Okay.
being ready to answer.
Thank you.
Right. And I did just want to check from a legal point of view too, and I'll turn to the attorney for that. I know that with our denial of the license in 2015, that they. 2025, I'm sorry, yes. It's been a long process here. No, 2025. Thank you. That there was a certain period built into our code in which that ownership could not reapply. I'm presuming that that time frame has expired anyway based on the timing of the action, but I just want to make sure of that. Not that anybody in this group is that prior ownership, but and certainly if you wish to clarify that, you can. But I just wanted to understand, sort of, has the calendar run out on that prohibition anyway, and so it's not relevant?
Mayor, the calendar has run out on that, and also this is a brand new license applicant. This isn't a repeated applicant for the same license from the same individual, so it is a new application.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to clarify. Thank you very much. All right, with that, if the representatives of the applicant wish to come forward and say anything you wish in support of your application for a hotel license in Roseville, we'd be happy to hear from you, and we just ask that you begin by introducing yourselves. And feel free to pull up another chair if you need.
Council members, my name is Vijay Patel. I'm one of the owners, and he's Mr. Hardik. He's one of my other partner.
I think the mic is, you don't have
Good
the
evening, all.
microphone right next to you.
Yeah, so since we purchased the property as a new owners, we worked very diligently with Mr. Patrick and Mr. David to mainly understand what are the code violations and all, and based upon the entire list, we kind of gone through point by point, list by list, starting with the fire code kind of compliance, then the overall building code compliance resulting in the electrical, plumbing, any mechanical work and all, so that we all completed. And with generosity of Mr. David, that he need to come like 3-4 times just to make sure how we make progress. Also, the inputs that what is required by the city and what we both are on the same page kind of a thing. So we completed that. We have Wyndham representatives. So even before we kind of purchase the property, we have a existing business relationship with Wyndham. We have one property in Superior, Wisconsin, next to Duluth, Super 8. VJ has American by Wyndham. And we already kind of planned that as soon as once we do this all code compliant, we are currently for a brief time going to run as a Roseville budget in, just from the looking at the operational perspective. But our renovations and the code, like the brand compliance is in progress. So I think from now to next few months, you will see from inside completely brand new property. And we have to change everything from the wall paint to the mattresses to the case goods, everything inside, the look and feel and everything. So we will be continuing investing into that, making sure that property can be fully occupied and rented. I think when we took it over, about 30 to 40 rooms were just used as storage rooms or employee only. So we removed almost about 7 to 8 dumpsters, about over 200 tons of debris out of the property. We also secured the fence and everything around perimeters. So pretty much most of the stuff which we want to kind of any property should have, from the customer safety, from the ownership safety and the city and the state compliance, we are working on it. I think there was a question about like dual brand, how it works, and Jonathan can help you all kind of make more aware that how it works for that.
First and foremost, I'm Jonathan Williams with Wyndham, Director of Franchise Sales. So my job ideally is to work with franchise owners throughout the state of Minnesota, Iowa, and Missouri on partnerships with our hotel brands that we see fit. That understanding the market and kind of what was going on. Originally, we knew the property. We knew it well. We knew the trouble that the city had, but we were eager when this group came to us and positioned the property. They have an amazing track record of working with us with some of our harder brands to operate across the board. We don't just do business with any hotel group, just like you guys. There's a extensive background check that comes with it of who they are, what brands do they have, how they operate properties. And I can assure you with this group, I think you've seen it so far. If you haven't, they're really good. They are probably some of the best hoteliers that you can have in front of you from an operational standpoint and an investment standpoint. These guys don't operate properties just to profit. They run really good properties for the city. They partner, they do things the right way. From a dual branding aspect, we looked at the property because of the size. We came up with a strategic plan of, hey, how can we help you guys and help the city cover all bases? So we looked at the economy piece, and then the mid-scale and upper mid-scale is where you see the Days Inn and Baymont. So you don't leave out anybody that's coming. So you can get your sports players, you can get your business people, you can get a large array of clientele that comes into the market. So that's where we are with the project. But I will tell you, so far moving forward, they have ordered all of their furniture and made extensive, improvements to what we require. They still have to pass, of course, their life safety stuff with us from Wyndham's standpoint, which is in compliance with all of city regulations and things. So they're making the right progress to move forward at a rapid pace without cutting corners. So my job is just really to come here as an extension of Wyndham to let you know that we're on board with you guys. We follow, city rules. We work with these guys to make sure that they're in par of what you want and what we want from our franchisees. And these guys are exceptional. I wouldn't be sitting here telling you this, putting my name on the line, if I didn't truly believe in this group with the hotels. And they manage and own quite a few properties, all brands. So economy, mid-scale, and upper mid-scale, they are truly three of the better operators that you guys will have.
Well, thank you for being here this evening and in support of your application. I'll just check if council members have any questions while you're at the table. Councilmember Bauer.
I forgot to ask, but at this time, are all your rooms available for occupancy? I mean, assuming this is granted.
We have 174 rooms that are actually back in the market, and we are painting a couple rooms. So we have 15 rooms or 20 rooms that are actually getting done with the new furniture, because we have been off market right now for the last 3 months. We have been paying the property taxes and all those things, so it's a big chunk of money that was going in. So there right now we have almost finished 26 rooms that we have painted. We have brand new PTACs that have gone into this building. So we are the ones that we are working on. That's the one that we are still not.
Yeah. So to be
renting.
precisely, I
But
believe,
they are all
yeah,
good to go actually.
approximately 150 room which we can rent tomorrow.
Yeah.
About 30, and our goal is to kind of keep rolling those 30 or 40 pool of rooms where they can go for this brand standard upgrades, and others we can rent it. And that's why we want to keep it as a private brand, because Wyndham wouldn't allow us, once we say Days Inn is complete, they are coming for the inspection. They will also look for whether we have the city license and all, and they will look for their compliance perspective that we finish whatever Days Inn brand requires for that. Then we'll start operating one portion as a Days Inn. So for your answer, precisely about 150 which we can rent. But 30 we didn't close, they are up for the renovation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Groff.
So just to understand, you're doing the work to meet the requirements that Wyndham would require to be franchised by them, and all the work that you've done meets their qualifications so far. It sounds like you've been working together on that.
Yes. So phase one was, as I think I sent out the phase one. In the phase one, our goal is to get the property up to the city compliance, remove everything. Also putting like some of the old paints to new, but eventually now we are working precisely with them, making sure that now property is code compliant, now how it is Wyndham compliant.
Very good. And then the last question is, how do you handle your training of staff and so on to identify problems? One of the problems we don't like to have is a lot of police calls or problems with drug use or other illegal activities in hotels. So how do you handle the training for that?
Yeah, what we're going to do is, we are going to enforce credit cards as well as the deposit for damage deposit and all those things with their IDs and all those things. It's a system where you can actually scan the IDs, or, it has got everything that you can write the driver's license and all those things on the system. So that's what we are going to train our people. Mm-hmm. so that they don't miss this out. So if there is anything, we have a track. And without a credit card, even if they are giving a debit card or a gift card, we don't take gift cards. It's only debit card or credit cards. So there is a track record of who they are and where they are coming from. Because what we have seen is when people come in for 3 or 4 days, pay cash, and then that's where it starts building out. And they are the people who actually have a problem with it. So on my other hotels too, what we do is we enforce a $100 deposit, which goes back when they check out. So that $100 is not much, but that holds them responsible for that day, So it's been less, and my hotels, we don't have a 911 call at all.
Yeah, and adding to it, if I understand your question like more in advancement is, I think city and state code kind of mandate some kind of a training. Those exact training for the human trafficking, drug abuse and all, it is enforced by Wyndham. So whenever we go to Wyndham also, every employee we onboard, they have a 4 or 5 training set, which is mandatory to kind of go through them and finish. And then there is a yearly reoccurrence of that training and all. So I think as we get into brand and kind of in the standards, whenever city will ask about whether we compliant, I think those employee records we will have available electronically from the system, that those are mandatory trainings employees will do periodically. They understand those nuances better. And as additionally what Vijay has mentioned, I think Wyndham is also encouraging us to kind of how do we validate the ID, the incoming guest, what are the deposit things and all, which will minimize the kind of internal hotel vandalism also. But overall, for one customer, other customers should not suffer, and overall kind of improvement of the property. We are smoke free. Yeah, and eventually property will be smoke free going forward as soon as we turn into Wyndham. So I think those lot of other things we can enforce those rules to customers as well, and kind of deny them, ban them, whatever we can say that it's not allowed when you do that. So we have a better control with the franchisee coming in.
Thank you.
Other questions, Councilmember Strong?
It's more just being a nag. We have had a long time history, and I'm sure you're aware of the nuisance calls at this particular property. And so we want to make sure it reflects on us as a city. If we have one entity or one hotel that you're like, don't stay there, you have a friend coming to town, is it okay if I stay? So even if it's a franchise. So I think, you, Mr. Williams, have a expectation as a franchise, but we also have an expectation as a city. We want to be able to be equally proud that all different price points people can stay here and feel safe. So, just hoping that that is a part of what you're hoping for too, and that we won't hear from you as vandalism and other things. But this property might take a little bit of time for people to really have a higher expectation.
Yeah, I'm going to be the main guy training my staff too.
Okay.
And we are all going to be hands-on on this. It's not like we are not there. I go to my properties every second day, personally spend time there too. So this being closer to my place too, I'm living in Shoreview.
Okay.
So it's not far. My daughter studies in Hamline.
Okay.
So, it's a day-to-day. So we are going to be here every day. One of us are always going to be there. So that way, this is all these issues that were there, we are going to minimize them. And I am a certified from Wyndham too. I'm the GM also for my hotels. So I'll be running it as a GM also initially till we get a proper GM. And we are all approachable from our cell phones any time of the day.
We all
so
are
that's
local.
the biggest plus point, that we are approachable for our staff, and anything is there, we'll be there.
Yeah.
standing next to them.
Yeah. Good thing is we all are local. So I live in Plymouth. Our third partner is living in Bloomington. So yeah. So yeah, he's a Roseville business owner too. Yeah, he has a Dairy Queen in Rosedale Center. I have another business in Brooklyn Park. So we are pretty much nearby, and that's what our goal mainly is. By looking at that, we also can see and experience what is happening and how we can minimize staying and making sure that not just leaving the employees and guests at like, okay, now with anybody, but we will be there personally and kind of making sure that we can minimize those efforts by them.
I do want to provide an opportunity also for members of the public to speak to this, if there is anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this hotel application. Does not appear to be the case. Any more questions from the council? All right, you're off the hook. Thank you again for being here, and feel free to have a comfortable seat away from the mics.
Thank you,
and
sir.
the hot lights.
Thank you. Thank you.
I move approval on it.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilmember Groff to approve the license and a second from Councilmember Bauer. This is, of course, the resolution that's attachment 5 in the packet, including the conditions of approval itemized in the final whereas, as relates to the final inspection and the swimming pool area.
Exactly.
Okay. Discussion of the motion. As the maker of the motion, Councilmember Groff.
Wow, a great presentation. It really makes me feel hopeful and encouraged about this property because we've had issues, as you know, and this just sounds like it's on the right track. And I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Bauer is the seconder.
I agree with that, and thank you for your putting your time, effort, and capital towards this, and very much look forward to your business here in Roseville.
Other discussion, Councilmember Schroeder.
I'll have to say I was impressed with how much work you put into this. When I talked to our city manager about it, I was pleasantly surprised on how much you had not only corrected but improved. So thank you for all that hard work, and I look forward to having this become a very productive business in Roseville. So thank you for being here.
Councilmember Strawn.
And I want to thank you for your commitment to being present and seeing it through. Really, that to me is a reason to give it a chance because really that's your interest is to try to see it improve. And really, the reason we didn't give it a license to begin with is we were concerned about our visitors coming and not being safe. And so we have to look at it from a point of view of, what kind of image is it giving our city? And, we want to work with you together to find something that's a positive experience for our guests. So thank you.
And I would just add that I think this is an illustration of exactly why we pursued having hotel licensing as a city, because it's an opportunity to actually provide for the marketplace, as was noted, as well as providing safe, clean, and healthy places for our visitors to our city to stay. Because I think that was some of the challenge we had been running into and honestly, as was noted, and you may or not be aware of it, but even when we put the program in place, even some of our longest term and most respectable hotels had things that they found out that they needed to deal with to get their license in line. So it was a process that was informative to everybody. But hopefully going forward, our approvals of renewals are routine, and this is something that we can find is beneficial to you financially, but also to the community, as has been stated. So with that, we have the motion to adopt the resolution approving the license as outlined. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously, and that license is approved. Thank you again. All right, that then brings us to our last business item this evening, which is to discuss the approach to the capital improvement needs at the John Rose, Minnesota Oval. And we have, once again, our Parks and Rec Director, and I'm not exactly sure how we worked it out that you were first and then last, but obviously your family must be okay with you being gone all evening. And
I choose to take it as a compliment.
so we start on a high note.
I'd like to think of this as an encore, yeah.
There we go. All right. And once again, this is back to discussing needs at the Oval. So I'll turn it over once again to Parks and Rec Director
Yeah,
Matt
if I
Johnson.
can get my slides to open up here. Here we go. All right, thank you, Mayor and Council, again. I will be brief on the background here, but I do want to make sure that we're speaking a common language about sort of the history and how we got here, and ultimately seeking some guidance from the Council about how we address some of these infrastructure needs that were initially planned as part of the bonding effort and have been sought several times and are now really in a point where we need to do something. So just on background, the Oval originally opened in 1993. In 2018, we commissioned a facility assessment, brought in essentially the engineers who had helped us construct the site to do a thorough review and identify what we need to do to make sure that the Oval could last at least another 25 years. They put together a large study that was presented to the council that included a number of repairs that would be needed between the 25 and 35 year mark. We put that together to essentially be a $5 million package, and we went to the state to seek additional funding. I didn't have it on my slide, and I don't think you need the full history lesson, but the state has funded infrastructure improvements at the Oval, I believe 5 times going back to the actual construction of the Oval, so been a great partner. Ultimately, in spite of the challenges around 2020, they did fund $3.9 million of the $5 million that were requested, and that we were asked at the time to prioritize. And so we prioritized the refrigeration system, which there was some potential concern of catastrophic failure, site drainage and concrete amendments because there was undermining and frost heave going on, as well as our padding system. Somewhat that was just the jigsaw puzzle that fit in, but also the padding system that we had at the time made us not able to host any event larger than essentially local because of safety concerns. That left us just over $1 million that were unfunded, and that was intended to handle roof replacements of both the Oval lobby, which we just talked about earlier, and the banquet spaces. There were also a number of HVAC units that were due for replacement. The state funding only applies to things on the Oval side, so arena items have been the city's responsibility. Oval we've been lucky to get support for. And then there were also some restroom improvements. On 3 different occasions, we have pursued the additional bonding dollars. I'm not sure if this is sort of what they always say, but we've been led to believe that we've been close, but no cigar in each of those 3 occasions. And last year when we pursued it, I think most of you were at the actual presentation, partly as we were nearing the 35-year age and partly because we wanted something that was a little bit more tangible and observable. We also added the stadium lighting for the exterior to that bonding request. That was, again, it seemed to work. When I spoke to folks after, that was the piece that they remembered, but ultimately we were left out of the bonding bill. That brings me to the current conditions. The photos on the right were taken a week ago Friday, which was, if you'll recall, our first rain after we had about 6 weeks of dry spell. So I hustled over there with my phone and took some pictures. The one on the left is the much talked about Oval lobby, where we have water leaking in through the ceiling. The upper right is the hallway in the banquet room. There are several other spots like that throughout the facility where water just penetrates that roof. The roof reached the end of its useful life. It's typically about a 25 to maybe 30-year lifespan. So we're quite a ways beyond that at this point by age. And in the assessments, we've met with 3 different roof vendors who admittedly are trying to sell a product, but they have shared that the original construction was essentially done in the most affordable way possible, utilizing a 14-millimeter membrane, which only to me means thin, when today the smallest they would put on is a 19-millimeter membrane. What this means is that membrane has shrunk, and essentially they cannot guarantee work that is done on it. So they will happily take our money and go up and try to patch the holes, but they will not leave us any kind of a guarantee. So we end up playing a little bit of whack-a-mole with the roof issues. As far as the HVAC units go, we have essentially kept punting on those as we move further along. I think we've had 2 that have failed since we originally went in 2018, and we've gone and we've replaced them in a sort of emergency piecemeal way. And that has worked fairly well. They tend to be, I think one of them was the staff offices. Easy for me to say, worked fairly well. I didn't have to sit in 95 degrees, but ultimately we were able to manage that. I think the other one was our front oval lobby. But we have the next 2 that are up nearing the end of really at the end of their life, well beyond the end of their life, are over the banquet spaces. And so the concern with that, obviously, is if they go out unexpectedly, you won't have heating or cooling in those spaces. And when an emergency repair type thing comes, you could be talking, I know when we did our staff offices, it was 6 weeks. So that could be a pretty significant operational and revenue hit. As far back as essentially when we put that $5 million package together, we did include this in the CIP. Originally, it was highlighted in bright yellow as we hope to never have to spend those dollars. I think when we went through and had the first $3.9 million, we did at that time put the $1 million into the CIP, these other items, and every year we've sort of moved it further along with the hopes that we would receive bonding money. This year in 2027, when compiling our proposed CIP budget, I staggered them in the way that sort of reflects what we just talked about, with the most urgent need being the roofs and those banquet room heat pumps. Those were on for 2027. At the time, I did not know that we would not receive bonding, so this was sort of just doing the exercise. The stadium lighting is also on for 2027, based purely on the condition, or based on the expected lifespan. Those are still in fairly good working order. They're just maybe not up to the standard we would like to have. The arena restroom remodel was on for 2028. Again, it was important to keep that on there to demonstrate to the state that it's a priority, but it is in fine working order, is not in an urgent need. And then we have 2 other rooftop HVAC units that are, in spite of their age, in pretty good working order, and so we had them programmed for 2028 and 2029. All told, that was $1.53 million. If memory serves, we had a little contingency in, so it was about $1.6 million that we went to the legislature with. Unfortunately, this leaves us where we are right now. As you'll recall, they typically don't do bonding during election years, meaning that our next opportunity to pursue bonding would likely be 2028, the legislative session in 2028. Of course, you never know. They have done odd year bonding as well. And then based on the last time we did receive bonding, we have been, it takes typically a year from when you are awarded the funds until when you can physically utilize the funds. So we're looking at probably 2029 before those funds would be usable. Waiting could be an option. We've been kind of limping by with these roofs, and but we do have many spots really all year long, including in the winter months when we have melting, where we do have water entering the building envelope. We don't believe it's causing, big damage to the building. It's not running through insulation and things like that, but it's still not what we aesthetically want. It is ruining ceiling tiles. It is doing things we don't want it to do. One thing that we did pursue as a possible next step, we went through and reviewed if we were to move forward with roofs. There's a couple procurement models, and we are really leaning towards the traditional design a spec and then low bid process. That allows us a couple of opportunities. One, we could hire a contractor to do the spec now. That would really get them up on the roof, have them really digging in, seeing what was there. And as part of their contract, we could say, can you identify anything that might buy us 2 or 3 years? I did talk to RSI, who has been the company who seems to be the most credible in this that we've spoken to, and he warned me that there probably isn't a ton of great options, but that they would look. But even if we were to do the spec today and decide, you know what, we're comfortable with waiting longer and pursuing bonding, the fact that we have specs can make a bonding package more appealing because it makes it more shovel ready. Although to be transparent, I'm not sure that's been the reason we haven't received funding, so I don't want to oversell that. So where we're at, I had a lot of what do we do, and so I wanted to make sure I bring what I think would be our staff recommendation at this point in the game. I would recommend that we move forward, and we would bring it on a consent item, but move forward with procuring a vendor to design specs for replacement of the roofs. And then regarding the other CIP items, I would also recommend that we proceed as planned with the banquet room heat pumps. I think the risk of unexpected failure of those is really quite scary to me. You might have 6 weeks of banquets that are 100 degrees. You can't get by with that. I do think that we could delay the Oval Stadium lighting. The one thing that is on my radar is we do have the World Junior Speed Skating Championships scheduled in winter of 2028 here. So we would be really great to get that stadium lighting done prior to that. But again, recognizing we have to prioritize. So I'm not totally ready to give that one up yet, but I think it's one that they are functioning and they can work. They're just not the most efficient. I do recommend that we retain for a potential future CIP or bonding packages those 2 other RTUs I had talked about, and I think the arena restroom remodel can kind of be scuttled at this point in the game and be something that we would look at as part of a larger future bonding package. Everybody's got an idea as to why bonding hasn't stuck with this smaller package. One that seems to have maybe resonated with me is that when we have submitted these packages, initially we started as it was about a $900,000 package. Even last year when we added, it was about $1.6 million. And there at times can be a little back and forth, which is, if it's that amount, why doesn't the city just take care of it? In fact, Lucy Botic, who was here earlier talking about from the Friends, suggested that potentially a larger, more comprehensive ask might be actually more appealing than those smaller pieces. So, I think we're thinking through what might make sense in the long run. I don't think we can rule out potential future, expansion and growth through bonding, but I'm not sure that these small packages really will have a shelf life with bonding. But you all probably know the political climate better than I do, but I think based on the conversations I've had, I have some concern about our ability, if we wait 3 years, to still get this done. But that said, I completely understand that this is a lot of money, and it would obviously be preferable if the state would continue to fund our capital in this way. So I bring it real. I put some bullets here, but essentially what I'm seeking is feedback from the council on what direction you'd like staff to go regarding these CIP options. If you would like to authorize an analysis for roof design work, again, I would actually bring back that agreement on a consent item as a future date because it is still going to be a professional services agreement. Again, just wanted to take the council's temperature before I get too far down the tracks on figuring out what we're going to do with this. So with that, I will open the floor for any feedback, questions, and discussion.
All right, let's start with questions. Questions from the council, clarifications. Councilmember Groff.
With roofs and water intrusion, the big fear is mold.
Yes.
Has any testing been done, or do we have any concerns about mold?
We have not done testing yet. And I think the first step would be to probably identify resolution, but we would need to do some testing. I think the staff feeling is there isn't concern, but I can't say that's been thoroughly vetted at the moment.
Well, you can't wait forever on roofs, so that's where I'm at.
Other questions? On the, Councilmember Strong.
I was just wondering, are we seeing like these roof leaks and things impacting our banquet usage, or?
No. Well, I should put a caveat. The lobby, the lower areas, when we've seen actual, dripping water come through, other than making my heart sink and probably making people come in and say, what the heck's going on here? People can still do what they're doing. In the banquet spaces, we have a drop ceiling. And so what tends to happen is it essentially gets wet and turns brown, and we swap out the ceiling tile. So again, it's not as they draw it up, but it is a way to, we're not seeing it like pour in the middle of somebody's wedding reception.
And what is the frequency or how are these being booked regularly weekend? I mean,
The banquet spaces? Yes, every weekend. They are booked. I mean, give or take, we will have a wedding or something significant there, typically on the Friday and the Saturday. I think that over the course of the last year, we had some 600 plus uses over the course of a year. So between the three spaces, so it's significant.
and is that a significant revenue generator then?
It is, yes. Off the top of my head, I think our banquet rooms generated $91,000 last year. Don't quote me on that exact. It's very close to that, though.
Okay, thanks.
I was going to ask, in terms of the CIP, the capital improvement plan, this funding would come from the building and facilities
Correct.
fund. Are we expecting that if we do the local funding instead of bonding, that we're going to have to look at property tax revenue to support these expenditures, or does the fund balance seem adequate for these, or I don't know if Mr. Trudgeon has to answer that.
We're making eyes to.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we have a full analysis. I do know that as part of our conversation on July 20th, we talked about adding $97,000 of new levy into the facilities fund, not just for things like this, but just the overall health. So we would have to look back, depending on where we're mixing and matching, and try to calibrate that better. But we know that the fund, while it has a balance, there's a lot of needs from that fund here, so we do need to already look at adding additional levy to that fund. And depending on what we actually end up doing, we may or may not have to adjust that number up.
Right. I think that would be an analysis that would be important to do as part of this. Other questions from the council or feedback?
I think the timing here is challenging, right? Because we're, looking at the 27 budget, right? And now we're looking at this at this time. It's coming out of the facilities, CIP as well. And just more of a comment, but this is going to be very challenging because if we're thinking, we can agree to this, but we don't really have estimates. We have a rough estimate of what this is going to happen. I think when you come back with your budget in a few weeks, we're going to have to see some kind of options here about what this looks like, or have this factored in to analyze before we can even go forward. And if we want to pursue this further and actually do this work in 27, and have that happen, because the facilities, as we mentioned in the last time, Mr. Freihammer brought up the fact that we need to do an analysis of our facilities because they're starting to age. This building as well is starting to there, and we're getting. This isn't a surprise, right? We've been asking for it for bonding, but we need an actual plan here if we're going to be able to be fiscally responsible and come up with solutions for here. We need to know what the extent and what the costs are and what the plan is for that. So more of a comment. There's nothing there to answer, but going forward, I agree with the mayor that we really need to see what that CIP looks like to figure out what can happen or not happen here.
Yeah, my only comment, and we will do that, my only comment is, we do have a fund balance in the facilities fund. So, and I can't remember how much you're asking in 27 if we were to do
About
that.
$1 million, I think.
Yeah, it's yeah.
So that's a significant,
But
obviously.
this was outlined in the CIP throughout. This is not. It didn't pop out of nowhere. This has been on there.
Yeah, so, but we know in the future, as we look to all the needs and the rising costs, we need to do that. So we've already added some into the budget proposal, whether, we can go back and make sure that whatever that would look like need to be for the budget, because that's the most pressing need right now, to understand what that levy increase would be. We can take another look at that. And I think tonight is, correct me if I'm wrong, beyond the conversation and direction is looking to see if we can do some specs and at least start with that, bring that back at a future meeting, of course, and then that will hopefully inform us before we make any hard and fast decisions on what we're actually doing in 27 and
Actually, before we get into too much of discussion, I do want to provide an opportunity. If there is anyone from the public here this evening that wish to talk about this, I just want to make sure we provide that opportunity. All right, Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes, actually, I agree with the mayor. I really need to see what the fund balance is and how this would affect that, and then how in a way, we would then have to figure out prioritizing here because just adding additional levy might be a painful year for that. So I guess I'd like to see the actual numbers and how that would work. I know we've always had it in here, but then we also always said, yeah, but ignore that because we're going to get bonding for it. And so in a way, even though it's been in the list, we've kind of put in that little asterisk next to it that said, oh yeah, but we'll just get bonding for this. So we hadn't paid much attention to that when it came to the balance. And so I guess if we're going to have to come up with funding for that, I guess I'd like to see how that would work. I mean, is there some way to take something else out? Or how could we do this to make it so it's not so painful? So yeah, I'd like to see more numbers before I'd be comfortable, going ahead with this.
I think it is important, though, to acknowledge that I think it's probably correct to presume that it's a low likelihood of having bonding funding anytime soon, if at all, given the size of the project. And given, I think, some of the feedback we had gotten in the last process, if not the most recent, maybe the one before it, where we actually had some funding received, that there was sort of the notion of the state is the partner, but the city has responsibilities for certain aspects of maintenance and upkeep on the, maintenance isn't the right word, but capital expenditures for the oval as well. And so I think that's, obviously there's could be a change of cast of characters at the state capitol, and who knows where that goes in the future. But that was definitely some feedback that we were getting in the last couple of asks or rounds of asks. And so I think it's a prudent approach to try to figure out how to do it, without the bonding funds. The one thing I was going to note is for something like the lighting project, I imagine there is some energy efficiency that could be gained from an LED approach as opposed to the technology that's out there right now that buzzes louder than. Anyway.
Correct.
And so that may be an opportunity to even pursue some grant funding that might be out there for those types of improvements, which might help with the financing of it. And so those are all the things I think we should be looking at. But definitely my thought is that there may just be things that we need to do in 27 because they need to be done in 27. The roof very well could be that, as well as the rooftop units, because we definitely don't want the banquet facilities out of commission. That's just not workable. So that just makes things worse from our financial point of view. And so the question is, does it impact 27 levy dollars? Does it impact 28 and forward levy dollars? What's the plan? And I think that's something that Parks and Finance and Administration need to work out and bring back to the council with some more information, flesh on the bones, so to speak.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to clarify because I perhaps inarticulately closed my RCA. This was the intention, was to bring this and say, I don't think that we can keep waiting and just what Councilmember Schroeder said. So I don't expect an answer tonight that says, go ahead and do this. I think what Councilmember Bauer is talking about we need a plan is 100% accurate. I think in consultation with City Manager Trudgeon, I didn't want to just show up and say, here's the plan, and you all say, what? I thought this was So this was the beginning, not the end. And so I apologize if I gave the impression by trying to ask those questions that I expected you to just say, oh, here's the check, go do it. That's not the impression at all. But I do think it is important that I did want to make the point that, as the mayor mentioned, I'm not sure that we can just count on bonding moving forward with these sorts of items.
Councilmember Bauer.
Yeah, picking up the fact, it was commented earlier that this is something we had already budgeted in the CIP, yet laid out in the RCA as different things being done at different years from out of the CIP. If it's already been programmed in the CIP, why would we not just do it all at once?
Because
what was your rationale for splitting up across those years?
That's when it was programmed within the CIP, was for those years, just to try to not have such a big hit over 1 year.
That's what we already had listed in the CIP?
That's what we already had listed in the CIP, yes. I apologize if that wasn't clear.
Once we only got the 3.9 for the projects
Right.
we did do.
Correct.
Then the others were pushed out that way.
Correct. What we have done since is kept them in the CIP, and every year we've said, well, we didn't get bonding, we're not going to do roofs, we'll push that out a year. Okay, these things can go a little further. just like I would with any other asset, to try to prevent exactly what you're talking about. We're going to do 2 million in 1 year. Unfortunately, when the roofs are what they are, that's a big hit. There's no way to parse that out. And that's what creates this bubble, so to speak.
The other thing I would note is that this might be something that, as the analysis is done, perhaps looking at doing, borrowing as opposed to financing it out of the fund balance. It may be a doable approach, which we've talked about before. There is that sweet spot of dollar value and what makes sense to bond for, and things like city borrowing, not state bonds. So that can all be part of the analysis, but not something I don't think any of us sitting here know the answer to for sure. Councilmember Bauer.
I guess I'm curious to know if this is enough analysis, right? So we're talking about, having someone maybe, what you propose here is having someone come and spec out the roof component, but we have listed here a number of other items that require funds. Is there other analysis or spec out? I mean, how comfortable are we with these cost numbers that these represent? The mayor pointed out there might be, rebates obviously for the lighting and whatnot.
We are, I would say, as comfortable as we typically are when we do CIP. So we've had informal estimates on the lighting, including have had conversations about potential rebates. They exist, but it's not going to cover the bulk of that. The HVAC was a formal quote received, so within, I think, $5,000. We actually did have a vendor come out about a year and a half ago, kind of seeing this iceberg coming, and went through both the arena and oval side and listed kind of urgent, middling, and can hold on to. And that's why we have some that were pushed further down, because they aren't as urgent. And then also their operational functionality is something we always look at as well. Of, I made the joke, but the reality is if one fails over our offices, there are things we can do with that, versus if one fails in a banquet room, that's pretty difficult. So that's how that analysis is done. We certainly could do more, but that's how we arrived at those.
Thank you.
Mr. Trudgeon.
And we'll bring back information. I appreciate the conversation. And I just was looking at the material that we had in the July packet about what the beginning balance in the facilities fund for 27. That's going to be $4 million. So there's funds there, but it goes away pretty quickly, especially with these things here. So just want to let you know we have a balance in there, but we have to prioritize how we're going to do it and the timing of all that. So
I guess I'd like to see multi-year, how that looks. So yes, we might see how it affects
Well, I think
27, but
the
28.
part of the budget process will
Yes.
include the new updated
Yeah,
CIP,
the
the whole
longer.
picture. So
Yep,
this will be
yep,
a part of that whole picture. Yeah.
Do we still need to address the?
I think we still
question?
need to address the specific planning and specs for the roof project if we want to proceed with that.
Because that would collect more information.
Yep.
I would move the approval of that 21,200.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Groff, seconded by Councilmember Strawn to authorize proceeding with the specs on the roof project as requested. Discussion on the motion, Councilmember Groff.
No, this was a very constructive conversation, Matt, and I always get concerned when things are leaking. That's just the real estate agent in me. It's the envelope of the property, and I think we need to collect more information on it, as Councilmember Bauer and Councilmember Schroeder said. And the mayor, we need more information, but I think this will give us more, and it'll give us in a timely manner so that we can act more quickly when the time comes.
All right, as the seconder, Councilmember Strawn.
I think it just gives us needed information. We need to know what we find out from this type of assessment.
All right, other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously, and that spec package development is authorized. Thank you again for being here to start off and close out our discussions this evening. Now on to the fairly administrative items. We have, first of all, consideration of the City Council minutes and EDA minutes from July 13th City Council and July 20th City Council and EDA. We have had drafts presented and had the opportunity to provide feedback to staff, which is then incorporated in what we have before us this evening. Are there any other changes or corrections or any motions related to approval?
I'd move to approve the July 13th.
Second.
All right, July 13th is moved by Councilmember Schroeder, seconded by Councilmember Groff. Discussion on that motion. I appreciate everybody's extra look at those minutes in terms
Yeah.
of, because it was an audio
Right.
recording, I think the minutes person had a little trouble determining who was saying what, and so it did take a couple of extra looks at it to make sure we got that right. So appreciate everybody doing that. If there's no further discussion on that set of minutes, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. That passes unanimously. Those minutes are approved. How about July 20th?
Move approval as corrected.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bauer. So it's moved by Councilmember Groff, second by Councilmember Bauer to adopt both sets of minutes from the July 20th meetings, if that's correct. Okay. Discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
All right, that passes 4-0 with Councilmember Schroeder abstaining. I'm sure she found those minutes quite interesting as leisure reading, right?
Yep.
Yes. All right, that brings us then to our consent agenda, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Trudgeon to go through those items.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agenda item 10A approves payments in the amount of $3,240,791.52. Agenda item 10B approves a temporary liquor license for St. Rose of Lima Church for their annual block party on September 19th, as well as a temporary gambling permit for a raffle at that same event. In addition, this action also approves another temporary gambling permit for a raffle as part of St. Rose of Lima's annual golf tournament on September 13th. Agenda item 10C approves the purchase of replacement of divider pads for the oval and an expenditure for the softball field at Villa Park to regrade the field and restoration of the infield lip. Item 10D approves a fiber lease agreement with Metro INET. Item 10E authorizes the city to apply for a grant with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety and its Office of Traffic Safety for additional traffic and speeding enforcement by the Roseville Police Department. Item 10F approves accepting a grant award from the U.S. Department of Justice in the amount of $14,255 to help outfit the recently acquired rescue Sprinter van to be used by the Roseville Police Department. Item 10G approves a short-term rental license for 2911 Troseth Road. And item 10H approves the reappointment of the following youth commissioners: Aldo Burquest to the Finance Commission, Sophia Salinas Ruiz and Gwen Gedikin to the Equity and Inclusion Commission, Mia Huntley to the Park and Recreation Commission, and Alexis General to the PWET Commission. And that is the consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Mr. Trudgeon. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Schroeder, seconded by Councilmember Bauer to approve that. Discussion on the motion. I just would note officially for the record, item 10F is the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant Fund. Apparently there was, the last name was left off the name of the item.
Oh.
Just in respect to Mr. Byrne. With that, we have the motion before us. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. That passes unanimously. Those consent items are approved. That brings us then to the future agenda review and a number of other things all in this category. And first, we'll turn it over to Mr. Trudgeon for that future agenda review.
So our next official meeting is on the August 24th. But wait, you have some special meetings. So this Friday, August 14th, we need to have you convene and canvass the primary election results. We'll be doing that at 12 noon here in the chambers. It should be a very short meeting, but we need to officially approve that canvass. We expect to get the results at some point on Thursday from the county, so we'll try to get that information on the packet as soon as we can, but we're kind of beholden to when they leave that to us. On the following Wednesday, I'll make sure that date's right because I've had it wrong before, August 19th, is a special city council meeting to interview candidates to fill a vacancy on the Equity and Inclusion Commission. I didn't get an update today, but I know last week we had at least 8 applicants, so a number to go through. So then on the 24th, we talked about this already, received my city manager recommended budget. Also, the way it worked out for timing, Tubman wants to come and just talk about their work in the last year for the city of Roseville, as you know, find some funding for them. We do have, what my understanding are some minor things here. Consider the Hyde Pick property right-of-way vacation. My understanding is pretty straightforward, as well as the State Patrol project, the encroachment agreement as part of that development, and the public improvements contract. I don't have it on here, but I think there is some groundbreaking ribbon, more of a groundbreaking, I guess, not a ribbon, on August 28th for the Pick property, Hyde development. So we'll make sure that we notice that and get the word out to everybody. And you can see the meetings upcoming in September and a couple of events here in Roseville in August. And that's all I have to report.
All right, questions on the future agenda? Other reports, announcements, communications from council members? Councilmember Strawn.
I know that Parkview will be doing their ribbon cutting for their long-awaited adaptive playground on the 26th, I believe, of August in the evening.
All right. Other communications, announcements, reports, councilmember initiated items for future meetings. What other category is there?
There's an event on the 16th, Saturday from 11 till 3, I believe.
On the 15th?
15th, am I wrong?
Yeah. That's the 15th is Saturday. That's probably associated with the Rice and Larpenteur Alliance,
yeah.
the block party. That was on my note to mention. So
That
perfect,
beat you
perfect.
to it.
Yes, no, that's all right. That's the Rice and Larpenteur block party. It's on the St. Paul side, just across Larpenteur from Roseville, from 11 to 3, and that is always a pretty popular event with music, live music, and lots of local food and local people. So look forward to seeing folks there. Any other communications, announcements, reports? If not, the only other item on our agenda this evening is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Groff, seconded by Councilmember Schroeder to adjourn. No discussion on a motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously, and we are adjourned at 8:59 p.m. Thank you, everyone.